That's what Hashem wanted him to hear. That's probably what he needed to hear. Shikayach. Oh, one of the greatest mechanics of all time. You have to tell them Hashem Eleisev Ruachach. It's a different chat in the pasuk.
Yeah, but he brings it out. It's mamash ha'avla if you don't. You're leaving it like a...
You have to tell people who they are. You have to tell people who they are. Beautiful. Chsam Seifer Yeshikayach. Huh? What did you say? No, he's talking about the Chsam Seifer. There's a pasuk in the Tzava, Va'ata tedaber el kol chachmei lev Hashem Eleisev ruach chachma. So literally means you should speak to all the wise, talented people whom I filled up with the wisdom to build, all the artisans, all the builders. He says, no, I want you, this is what you should say to them, that I filled them up with wisdom, because people don't know who they are, they don't know their talents. Tell them. People are filled with tremendous potential, but it's like a seed. If you don't plant it, you don't plow, you don't take care of it, nothing happens. He says that's how many people are. Somebody has to tell them who they are. Very beautiful. Shikayach, wow. Some Sefer Parshas Tetzav, okay. We'll put it in the files. Okay. Did Moshe were good? Gewaldig. Okay, so we started a new mimer yesterday. Likkutei Parshas V'eschanan. Page 23. We're holding page 23. The mimer is Inyan Krias Shema Echad V'Hafta Likkutei V'eschanan Daf Yud Aleph Amud Daled Yud Aleph column 4. We're holding on Yud Beis column 1, or in English it's page 23. We did the first Perek, and we're holding Perek Beis, yeah? Siv Beis, the second chapter of the mimer. It's Veschanan this week. Today's class is dedicated by the Friedler family in honor of the 13th yahrzeit of their dear beloved mother, Rebbetzin Yehudis Bas Reb David Friedler. Tehei Nishmas Tzura B'Tzer HaChayim. And thank you very much to the Friedler family. May your mother's soul be an everlasting source of love, compassion, empowerment, blessing, and inspiration to you, to the community, to all of the mishpacha, to all of the Jewish people. La'arichas yamim v'shanim tovos, with all the blessings, and thank you very much. We should be zeicha to kitzu v'ranan u'sheich neyafar b'karev mamash. Okay. I saw somebody wrote a comment that they couldn't hear the story you said yesterday from the Weitzner Rav. They just heard me referring to it because it didn't detect it. So they asked me if I could say it over for people who are not physically here, but they're virtually here. So I'm just going to say it over because everyone felt that it was such a fascinating story, but they couldn't hear all the details. So the story that Rabbi Alpinin, Harav Shaul, Pinchas, we finally have a second Shaul here. Oh, Shalom, sorry. Okay, Reb Shalom Pinchas Alpinin told us yesterday I didn't know the story, that Reb Dov Berish Meisels, who later was a rabbi in Chicago, Reb Tzvi Hirsch, sorry, yeah. Okay, wow, strike two. Reb Tzvi Hirsch Meisels, known as the Weitzner Rav, who was in Auschwitz, and he wrote a sefer called Shal Setshuvas Mekachi Hashem, where he shared many of his stories. Incredible, tragic, heart-wrenching stories. But there's a story that I didn't know, that when he was in Auschwitz, he was caught with tefillin, putting on tefillin. A talis cotton, sorry, tzitzis. They found that he was wearing a talis cotton, tzitzis. And I guess the Nazi or SS fellow who found him wanted to kill him. But he told him that he won't kill him if he can answer him the question of why the Jewish people are suffering so much. How, if there's a God, how can God allow the Jewish people to suffer so much? If he answers this question, he gives an intelligent answer, he'll spare his life, right? So he explained, and the metaphor that he gave was that imagine somebody's on an airplane and the person desperately wants to understand how the plane is flying. It doesn't make sense to him. So he goes over to the pilot and he asks of him to explain to him right now, in the middle of the journey, how the airplane works. So he says, I can explain it to you very well, but for that, we have to open up the airplane, expose its engine, and then I can explain to you what exactly is happening for the airplane to fly. But of course, if we do that, in the middle of the flight, it's the end of the flight. So his point was that there's a whole system of how the world works. And if you open up everything, if you go back to the beginning, if you go back to the beginning of the universe and you see exactly its whole plan, you can perhaps appreciate it, maybe. But that means that the whole world gets destroyed. Did I say it right? Okay. And his life was spared, and he lived, I think, till Tovshin Lamed Daled, 1974. And that's the story. Yeshikoyach. Okay. Siv Beis. I just have to make one more correction. I said yesterday that the mimer was said by Yechidus. It was said privately because the Tzemach Tzedek writes on this mimer that it was said to the Rosh Av Bezdin of Tzasnik. But I saw yesterday that there's a few hanachas of this mimer. There's different transcripts of the same mimer. There's the mimer in Likkutei Torah, which is usually written by the Alter Rebbe's brother, Maharil Rabbi Yehuda Leib. I saw that the Mittler Rebbe, the Alter Rebbe's son, also has a transcript of the mimer in his own style. That's printed in the Siddur. There's a Siddur of the Alter Rebbe with commentary. On the section of Pasach Eliyahu, there's this mimer. It's also in Sefer Maimarim Tavkuf Samachei. And the Tzemach Tzedek has another transcript of the mimer, his own transcript of the mimer that's printed in Eira Torah. The fact that so many people heard the mimer, obviously heard the mimer, so it wasn't b'yichidus. It's probably what the Tzemach Tzedek meant. Just my own assumption is that he was there. He was there in the mimer, and it looks like maybe the mimer was said in his honor. But there were also other people who heard it because we have three different hanachas of the mimer. So it could be it was a very exclusive group. Could be it wasn't a big island, but it was certainly more than him. It doesn't look like only he was there. There were at least a few people there, maybe more. But it looks like it was said in the honor of this person. I just wanted to make that historic. I know nobody would hold me so accountable for that, but just for the sake of integrity, I just wanted to fix it, clarify that. That's true. Very good. The mimer was said in honor of us as well, yeah. It is being said in honor of us, yeah. Very good. Noisin HaTorah, Lashon Haiva, right? Noisin HaTorah is Lashon Haiva in the present tense. Yeah, Sifsoisav Doivavus, yeah. Agura Ba'olcha Elamim, page 23. On top it says, V'eschana, we're holding Perek Beis. Let's just remember the main point we learned. The main focus of Perek Aleph of this mimer is what Seder Hishtalshlus is. When we use the word Seder Hishtalshlus, which is a word that's used frequently in Pnimiyus HaTorah, especially in Chassidus, especially in the Alter Rebbe's mimer, all Cabala, but especially in the Alter Rebbe's mimer, what does he mean? What's Seder Hishtalshlus? Yeah. When we use the word Olam Hatzilus, what does that mean? Atzilus. Yeah. We use the word Gilui, what does that mean? All of that, that's what he really addresses in Perek Aleph. And the main point that was made was that Hishtalshalus, as the Alter Rebbe put it, is Kol Hishtalshalus, the quote was Kol Hishtalshalus Uliyas P'chines Gilui. All Hishtalshalus means, in order for Ein Sof, which is ungraspable, it's undefined, Ein Sof means infinite. Infinite doesn't only mean it's endless, that it doesn't have an end. Infinite also means in quality. There's no way of describing it. It's not like you could even say chesed, gvura, tiferes, wisdom, intelligence, logic, any characteristic. Even the most spiritual definition is not the Inyan of Ein Sof. Ein Sof doesn't only mean it fills the room and it fills the next room and it fills the next room and it doesn't stop. That's not the Vart. It's much deeper than that. Ein Sof means infinite. Also in definition, it's infinite. There's no way of saying it's this, it's that. I don't have... it's the essential reality that is underlying everything, but is beyond any definition and description. Can that be b'bchinas gilui? What does it mean b'bchinas gilui, revealed? Revealed means, can it be communicated into a realm which is defined? Any type of realm, into a brain, into a soul, into a consciousness. That is Ishtalshelus. The revolution of Ishtalshelus is that this reality should be manifested, should be viscerally revealed and communicated in a realm that has essentially no contact with it, no access to it, because of its own definition. And that's what Seder Ishtalshelus is. And that's why the word Ishtalshelus comes from the word Shalshelas, which means a chain, because essentially this is the process of the energy flowing downward like through a chain. And on each rung, it becomes more concrete, more, it assumes a more concrete incarnation, which means a more concrete tziyur, a more concrete levush. In each rung, it comes down, this energy comes down in a way that it can be embodied, it's embodied and manifested and expressed in that realm. If you take away one rung, you interrupt the flow, because this rung can only be connected to the rung that is much higher through the intermediary rungs. So if you obstruct that, if you take away the rung, you obstruct the flow. It's not happening. It's a very intricate process of shalshelas. That's why it's called ishtalshelus. One depends on the other, which depends on the other, which depends on the other, which depends on the other, all the way to the top, to the author of the ishtalshelus, to the one that is beyond ishtalshelus. The beginning of ishtalshelus, we always say, is atzilus, generally speaking. Like always, you can get into specific, but generally speaking, that's the world of atzilus. We called it, based on this mimer, the interface. The interface, meaning the meeting point between two completely different realities, so to speak. One is pure Ein Sof, which leis machshava tfisa beklal. No thought can grasp it. What do we mean, no thought? It doesn't mean not a human thought or an animal's thought. It means no thought, even the highest form of comprehension, the highest form of thought, which means the highest form of consciousness, which we don't even understand what the highest form of consciousness. But the most, the super computer, super spiritual computer that has the deepest ability to grasp, beyond what we can grasp. Leis machshava tfisa beklal. Not because it's ignorant and stupid and because it makes mistakes, but because by definition, it's a machshava. It has some form of way of relating to reality, an amazing way, machshava, thought, comprehension, consciousness, however you want to define it. But it's still not a keli for pure Ein Sof. Atzilus, therefore, is the interface where there can be the first bridge, right? That first stop, so to speak. Because what does the word Atzilus mean? Atzilus is not Bria. Atzilus means something that emanates. Something that emanates from something else. But it already emanates in a way that it has some form of definition which can then be communicated and picked up and absorbed and detected by lower realms of existence. As he puts it, Atzilus is the bridge between the Ein Sof and Bria, Yitzira, and Asiyah. And when we say that all these realms can pick it up, it's not just to pick up information, it's their creation. It's to be able to become who they are. It's not just an interface that I should be able to get a message. For them to even be, for there to be a Metzias, you need this interface. Right? It's not just, there's a reality, but we want the reality should have some appreciation, so we have an interface. Here it's for them to be, their very existence, their very identity, which comes from the Ein Sof.
First simulated reality.
And that's why the source of Atzilus is in Parshas Ba'alaischa, in the story of Moshe Rabbeinu, because that was the model for this. V'atzalti min haruach asher alecha. It's Moshe's spirit, it's not the prophets. The 70 people didn't have their own wisdom, their own information. It was all Moshe Rabbeinu. V'atzalti min haruach asher alecha. V'samti aleihem. I'm taking your ruach. So what do you need them for? So it's Moshe Rabbeinu anyway. They were like an interface. They can take Moshe Rabbeinu's energy and bring it down a rung, or many rungs, So now, v'nasu itcha b'masam, they can lead the people with you, and the meat could go, and everything that you need to give the people, as explained by Riches. I'm sorry, what? Okay. Yeah. So that's called. That's why it's called the beginning of Ishtalshalos, and that's the word shalshelis.
In the programming, there is a concept which programmers can relate to. The interface is basically abstract. It's a completely abstract class, which basically defines certain functions and rules, but it's totally abstract. There is no any form and implementation. So, for example, you have an interface called moving object, right? And then from that, you can derive the class called animal. Animal is a type of moving object. And then you can give to the animal a form, like an Yetzirah, saying that that moving object has legs and things that it's like
Beautiful.
the moving thing. And then you have implementation in the world of Visceral, which you have a real object, which is called that type of animal. So there is a
Wow, so you're saying that even in the world of programming, we literally have an example for this.
100%.
That in the interface, it's first abstract,
Abstract class.
like a moving object,
It's an abstract class.
and then it becomes, let's say, an animal,
Yeah, which is also abstract because animal is abstract, but it already has some kind of form.
but it has a
It
form,
doesn't have a form. It has a. It's started to basically define
a description.
commonality among all those.
From moving forms, you turned into more specificity,
and
more
animal,
specifics
and
an
then a
animal,
specific animal, let's say.
and then a
monkey.
specific animal, and then you
design monkey, and then you implement it.
and then you actually implement the design. So you're saying you actually have the Bri, Yitzir, and Asiya. Beautiful. Huh?
Well certified partner in Bitcoin.
Huh? Yeah, yeah.
Different abstraction.
Right. So that's how the program evolved. But it all comes from that source.
Yeah, the only difference is that programming, it doesn't have an effect backwards.
Well, it does. You have a creator of the program. You have a software architect. It starts from him.
No, he needs something else.
When you go to the end product, you don't really affect back. That stays
Because of the
isolated.
easy pass with no
In
easy
our
pass.
world, whatever we do has an effect.
Well, in the software architecture, it doesn't have a framework.
It still goes back to the sandbox and
It
changes
goes
things.
to the same.
You drive through the easy pass with no easy pass. You hear about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we didn't. The programming didn't develop in back, and people realized
Right.
to create object-oriented programming, you need to have those
Yeah.
abstractions and different.
Yeah.
So.
And he gave the example that you have, for example, Seichel, Midas, Machshava, Seichel to Midas, Midas to Machshava, Machshava to Dibur, Dibur to Maisa. This is all an example of how the Shalshelis, the Shtalshelis evolves. And generally he said that the Essa spheres of Atzilus, those are the building blocks of the interface. And from there emerge the entire process of all of the other worlds, which are all also made up of these building blocks, all the way down to the human being. Both the divine soul and the animal soul are made up of 10 koiches, of 10 spheres. Nishtalshalu mehen, they're part of this ishtalshalus. So the 10 spheres of Atzilus are embodied and manifested in the human being as well. Nasa adam b'tzalmenu kidmusenu. That's why we speak about the 10 building blocks, or the 10 characteristics, or the 10 koiches, or faculties, both of the animal consciousness, the nefesh habahamis, nefesh hachiyunis, as he puts it there, and the nefesh halakis, the divine soul. It always begins with chachma. Chachma is like the beginning. Chachma is like the first glimmer of revealed consciousness, kayachma, and then from chachma it comes further. So you have chachma, bina, das, chesed, gvura, teferes, netzach, chod, yisod, malchus. On this he explained, we say isrotzen ve'isrotzen. There's two types of ritzonos. There's something higher than chachma. What's higher than chachma is rotzen, and there's two types of wills. There's a will that's born from chachma, from das. Those are the wills that are born from a rational awareness and cognition and explanation. You know, like you do analysis, you do research, and then from the analysis and the research, a ratzon emerges, a conclusion emerges. You know, I'm really excited about this project. I'm really excited about going to this school. I'm really excited about learning this discipline. I'm excited about this investment. I'm excited about this friendship. I'm excited about this trip, whatever it is. I'm excited about this president or this mayor or this senator or whatever. I'm excited about this. I'm excited about my new venture. That's a ratzon. There's an enthusiasm. There's a passion. You're interested in it. It was born from the chachma and the seichel. He said there's a higher Ratzon. This is a Ratzon that is beyond Chachma and Seichel. And that's why you could see sometimes that a person wants something. And even if all intelligent people show him that intellectually it does not make sense, this is not something you should do, the person does not listen to them. Why? Because this is something so innate or so intrinsic that the intellectual analysis has no access to it. It can't manipulate it, it can't change it, not this way, not that way. It has no access to it. In a Likkutei also, it's called Ein Tam L'Ratzon. Like Hashem says, Shtoik, be quiet. Kach Alo B'Machshava. It's something that all the explanations in the world will not be able to capture it. Won't be able to define it, to explain it. So it's not a weakness. On the contrary, it's a form of reality that is beyond Chachma. That was the main Nekuda. He finished the chapter. That when we speak about Hashem, Machshava and Dibur, even though it's not like by a person, thoughts and words, because his thoughts create and his words create, we still call it thoughts and words, because the difference of thoughts and words by a person is that when we speak, others can hear it. So the Gilui is in a way that an outside entity can hear what I'm saying. When I think, I can hear what I'm saying, but nobody else can hear what I'm saying. So this is a fantastic mashal to two types of creation. There's a creation of Hashem that's called God speaking. And there's a creation of Hashem called God thinking. What's the difference? When I speak, someone outside of me gets the message, at least to some degree. When Hashem speaks, what type of reality is created? A reality that considers itself separate. Or what we would call in simple English, a concretized reality that we can see, that we can touch. Heaven and earth. Bidvar Hashem Shemayim Nasu. Hu Amar Vayehi. Basara Mamaros Nivra Olam. Vayomer Elakim Yiyar Vayiyar. We look at light, we benefit from light, we appreciate light. Or grass, or produce, or animals, or fish, or birds, or Adam, or whatever God created, water, etc. What is water? It's also a divine energy, but it's divine energy that's called a speech. Why is it a speech? Why is it a speech? Because what's a speech? A speech is that the outside reality can appreciate it. When anybody looks at the world, you can call yourself an atheist, but there's a world. That means God spoke. It came out of him, so to speak, from the perspective of the recipient, and it's something that has a form independent. Like when somebody speaks, my words left, now you could do with it what you want. People plagiarize, people misconstrue, people misinterpret, people steal the world, people hijack, right? People take other people's information and they call it their own. Because it's revealed, they can't hijack my thoughts. Till neural links. Nobody can hijack my thoughts. You can't plagiarize my thoughts. You can't take somebody's thoughts and with that win your Nobel Prize or write your book. With speech, it constantly happens. It happens all the time. A lot of court cases, people go to lawsuits. You took this from my book, you took this from my speech, you took this. In the Jewish world, it's not common here. It's all goynav menaganav yedein and emt von allem. But I have a lot of experience with this. Yeah, we once spoke the whole word from the Rebbe. Yeah. But that's why it's called dibur. Machshava is when Hashem creates something with machshava. There's no separateness. Your thoughts can't rebel against you. That's all part of yourself. That's the point. My words, they have a separate entity.
So you're saying the Nobel Prizes should be all given to HaKadosh Baruch Hu because it all originated.
Of course. Of course.
And it's all one gigantic hijacking.
Of course. Yeah. It's true. I told you once the word from the Rebbe. He said in Pirkei Avos, "Kol ha'omer davar b'shem mimer mevi gula lo'olam." It's an extraordinary insight. Davar means thing, but davar also comes from the word dibur. Why? In Hebrew, thing and word is the same word, right? You don't have any other language, as far as I know. Davar means a thing, davar means a word. Why? Because everything is really a word. Kol ha'omer davar b'shem oimrei. Whoever says everything, and everything they identify, who's the one who said it. Baruch sha'amar v'haya olam. Mevi ge'ula la'olam, they redeem the world from its concealment. When you identify in every davar the shem oimrei, the one who said it, who speaks it, like we say every morning, Baruch sha'amar v'haya olam, that's oimrei, that's the name of Mevi ge'ula la'olam, you redeem the world. The word olam means concealment, helam. You redeem, you emancipate the world from its concealment because it looks concealed. It's concealed. You don't see the mimer. Just like I could repeat something I heard from somebody, you don't know who I heard it from. I'm taking credit myself. It's a form of stealing, yeah. It's a lie, and it's detaching from its source, and it's also obstructing the flow because you're not in flow anymore. Because you separated it from its reality. And it needs that. It needs that. You can't separate it. It's like communicating electricity to your computer without the plug. I mean, the battery can survive for a few hours, but afterwards, you say, I don't need a plug anymore. Okay, good luck. Get your electrons without a plug. How are you going to get it? But with electricity, there's no bechira. Here, that's the whole idea of dibur, that there is this duality, that on one hand, it left, meaning, so when you want to say that Hashem caused the Ein Sof to be Nizgala, what do I mean to be Nizgala? Not just to be Nizgala in a spiritual, abstract, concealed inner frequency, but to be Nizgala as something we call physical, you call it speech. That's the best word for it. Because that's what dibur is. It came out of his rishus, and you could call it gashmis. Really, if you look at it, it's all dibur. Davar is dibur. It's the same thing. If you break it down, if you dissect it, the deeper and deeper and deeper you go. If we had microscopic eyes, never mind spiritually microscopic eyes, all you would see is Dvar Hashem. You would see nothing else. All you would see is Isis, divine energy, divine letters. You say, but I don't see that. I see coffee, I see a tree, I see a squirrel, I see a person, I see a tissue box, I see a star, I see an animal. That's true. That's what dibur is.
That's the avoid.
The whole avodah is to bring it back up, to bring Seder Yishtalshalus back up, higher and higher. Yeah. V'yeda kol pol kiyata palta, v'yoven kol yitzur kiyata yitzarta, v'yomer kol Hashanah shama v'apay, Hashem Likkutei Yisrael melech, like we say Rosh Hashanah, yeah, that's it. Yeah, what did he say? That he wants... Yeah, Rosh Hashanah once, yeah. I heard once, yeah. Very good. What's the good word? And it's brought in Kisvei Arizal, v'yeda kol pol kiyata palta is asiyah. V'yovin kol yitzur kiyata yitzarta is yitzira. V'yomer kol asher neshama v'apay neshama is olam abriya Hashem Likkutei Yisrael melech malchusa b'kol mashallah. So you're actually going up the three worlds.
I thought neshama is coming from ayin. So I'm always
In the source, but once you speak about neshama,
which part comes from ayin and which comes from briya?
okay, well, wait. So that's the Inyan. That's why he says from machshava comes what's called almin stimin. The law is Galian. From dibur comes almin is Galian. That says in Pasach Eliyahu. He says over there, Leis machshav tfisa b'chlal, antu da pikas asar tikkunu v'karina loin asas finan, lan hagavohin almin stimin. The law is Galian, v'almin is Galian. What's this idea? Secret worlds, revealed worlds. What is this? Some CIA world that nobody knows about, that the FBI controls. Almin stimin means a world that's sussum. It's a secret. So what makes it a world? It doesn't mean it's a secret that nobody has information about it. It didn't reach Wikipedia. Almin stimin means it's concealed to itself. It's invisible to itself. It doesn't experience itself as a concretized reality outside of the Ein Sof. Like a fish in water. You take the fish out of water, the fish says, do me a favor, I don't want to be visible. But when you're visible, you're a reality. No, I'm dead. I'm dead. When you take a person or an animal and you put them under the earth, what does it mean? It means that it's after death. When you take a fish and you bury it in the water, it means it's alive. When it starts floating on top of the water, you take it out of the water, it's dead. So in Almin Stimin, what is life in Almin Stimin is death in Almin Gluyin. What is life in Olam HaGolui is death in Olam HaSasim. The definition of Olam HaSasim is machshava. Imagine you take a thought and you say, I want to take you out. No, do me a favor. There's oist machshava. I cease to be. My entire experience is internal. Invisible. No ego. No ego. In Almin Stimin, there's no way of hijacking, of taking credit, of plagiarizing, of detaching, of becoming an entity outside. In Dibur, that can happen. In Machshav, it can't happen. So it's all Hishtalshalos, but this is a higher form of Hishtalshalos. Now, Moshe says came from water. Moshe is called Moshe. Why? He was taken from water. Why does that become his name? It's true he was taken from water, and it was a Gavaldic story. But why is that his eternal name forever? Not only that, it's not even a Jewish name. It was given by a non-Jew. Not only that, the Gemara says in Saita that his parents gave him another name. You know, Moshe's name wasn't Moshe. Tuvia, one other opinion is Toiv, Yukusil. In Medrash Vayikra, there's 10 names that he was given. None of them are Moshe. So the name that stuck is a non-Jewish name. So the Alter Rebbe explains, because that is the definition of Moshe. The definition of Moshe is that he comes from water. Even when he's on dry land, he's essentially a creature of water. There's an egolessness. Egolessness. He remains invisible even when he's visible. He's not from dry land. That's why I don't have words. Fish don't communicate, don't make sounds. Human beings speak, they don't stop. Animals don't speak, but they make a lot of sounds. The roars and the brays and the cries and the mehs and the meh. Fish, nothing. Moshe says, I'm a fish. Lo yish dvarim anaychi. Ich sag gar nicht. Over here in the store. It wasn't a fish. It turns out it was a person. Yeah. B'makom she'ein ish is a heading oicha fish. Is a heading oicha fish. So we had a story, remember a few years ago, a fish spoke about his Gilgal. Yeah. What's Moshe Rabbeinu saying? Lo yish dvarim anaychi. I'm not a man, not because he has nothing to say, because he has too much to say. You understand? It's not that he has nothing to say. He has so much to say, he can't say it. It can't be articulated in words. It's alman stimmen, it's machshava. It's like if you'll have to give words for every thought you have. It's meshigav, and everybody else will become meshigav. Imagine every thought you have, you're responsible to put it into words. Oh my God. It's hard enough to think it, now you have to talk it also. The Likkutei once said that his hardest day is Shabbos. So they said, why? The Likkutei said, because his mind goes so fast, in the middle of the week, he can write it down. Shabbos, he has to stay with it. So it was very, very difficult for him. His mind was like the speed of light. It's traveling 186,000 miles per second. Literally by him, it was that way. So when he had a pen and paper, you could see from his writing, he just wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote. Nobody could understand a word he said, but he wrote it. He had a psakeli to articulate it, so there was like a way of containing it. There was some respite, some menucha. He said Shabbos is a very, very hard day for him. That's what he once said. Shabbos is the b'china of machshava. Right? But it just brings out this idea. So Moshe says, Lo yish dvarim anaychi. I'm not a man of words. That's why he needed atzilus. That's why Moshe is that mashal to be able to bring it down. In Ishtalshalos Gufa, you have these two b'chinas, machshava and dibur, but that's all in Ishtalshalos. And he explained with all of this, the halalu, keroiv gudloi, not halalu, kegoidel gudloi, that it's not just his godless is amazing. It's keroiv gudloi. There's infinite diversity. There's infinite forms of how his godless expresses itself. What does chesed divine look like? There's the way an ant defines it. There's the way a seal defines it. There's the way a bear defines it. There's the way a hyena or a lion or elephant defines it. There's the way a star defines it. There's the way Moshe Rabbeinu defines it. And every one is true. Depends which level of ishtalshalos you're touching.
In this context, Olam HaStimen refers to what? Atzilus or beyond that?
Usually Bria. Olam HaStimen is Bria. Usually Bria is Alman Stimen. It's an internal world, meaning it's a universe. But the definition of the universe is that it's completely connected to its source.
So literally the world of thoughts, in a way.
So to speak, a world of thoughts, yeah. You can't be disconnected. There's no choice. It's not like you cannot feel that you don't have to be oimer davar b'shem oimra. When you have thoughts, your thoughts, right, can't go out and start working against you. I mean, unless you're working against yourself. But your thoughts are just a projection of who you are. Words assume an entity, some form outside of yourself. So in spiritual metaphor, Dibur is the way Hashem's energy comes out b'hizgalus. What do we mean b'hizgalus? All of Ishtalshalus is Hizgalus. That's what Ishtalshalus means. Ishtalshalus means Ein Sof, being revealed. What do we mean revealed? Let's translate revealed. Everything is translated in this mimer. Revealed means it's communicated in a realm that is not Ein Sof. It's communicated in a realm that is not experiencing itself as Ein Sof. Comprehensible in that realm. But Dibur represents when it comes out in a way that we can see it, we can touch it. You go out to the street and you're touching a tree. What are you touching? you're really touching Dvar Hashem. If all the concealments were gone, you would see that it's Dvar Hashem, but you're touching something that you're calling a tree. Why can we call it a tree? Because God spoke it. He didn't only think it. If he would have thought it, not spoken it, what would you experience? You would experience that it's halakus. It's still hishtalshalus. It's the way halakus comes in to the alman stimmen. Shahakol niya bidvare. Hakol niya bidvare. That is omer davar b'shem omer. I'm about to drink a cup of coffee or a cup of water, and before I drink it, what do I say? Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam shahakol niya bidvare. Everything came into existence through His word. So basically, that is the havodah of identifying in the drop of water or the cup of water. Hakol niya bidvare. Chaim v'levracha. That's why you say l'chaim. L'chaim means to life. You're connecting it to life. Yeah, it's detaching the energy from its source. It's the Gemara says that it's a form of stealing. Yeah, the Maseches Brachas. Now, when a person eats without a bracha, it's a form of gzeila. Yeah. No, it's the Halukarev Gudlay is related to Almadis Tam and Almadis Gal, but it's bringing out a new point, and that is that the diversity of Ishtalshalus is ad infinitum.
But it's not based on what we...
No, it's a hemshech. No. V'hinei Perek Beis, v'hinei Ishtalshaluzu, this whole Ishtalshalus that we're trying to explain, hi ba'atzilus. This, as we said, begins in the interface called Atzilus. Umimeno lamata. And from Atzilus below. Atzilus is the beginning of Ishtalshalus, the genesis of Ishtalshalus. And from Atzilus, ulamata, lower. What do we mean lower? Lower means more it becomes more individuated, more concrete. Every level, every world. The same energy assumes a more concrete levush, until in this world, where it assumes a physical incarnation, to the point where you could completely deny any higher reality. When really it's nothing but the embodiment of a higher reality. But you have the ability not to look at that, not to see that. So this Ishtalshalus is an Atzilus. Umimeno lamata shehuliyos, in order for there to become something we call Chachma, and then something we call Seichel, and then something we call Midas, and then something we call Machshava, Chuli, Dibur, Maisa. Shahamidis nishtalshlu mehaseichel, like we see Midas, which is the embodied experience of something, is nishtalshel. It's like a shalshelis from seichel. When a person has a deep awareness of something, a clear understanding, cognition, it can often translate in Midas. What is Midas? Midas is the way it's embodied in the human body. Your heart opens, your heart closes. You feel this idea. An idea on its own is an idea. It's a truth. Midas is the way you are embodying the idea, the way it translates into a physical sensation in your body. So Midas, nishtalshalu from seichel. It's not when you're feeling the midah, you don't always know the seichel in it, right? People say, this is what I'm feeling. You have to go up, ishtalshalus, right? What's up? You want to say, why are you feeling this way? Or what's causing this feeling? That's exactly what ishtalshalus means. The whole process of looking at something and saying, let's trace it back to its source, that is a chiddush of Seder Ishtalshalus. Let's take it back to its source. And how far can you go up? Oh, you can go a lot. You can go millions and millions of miles and you're not done yet. You see somebody crying. There's tears. That's a physical reality. There's tears streaming from their eyes. But those tears are coming from somewhere. Those tears are being produced by an experience. Could we talk about the experience? And the person may say, no, I can't talk about the experience. I don't know why I'm crying. I don't know why I'm crying. But when the person sometimes can appreciate why they're crying or what they're crying about, sometimes it's takanat negeya. There could be more clarity around it. And then there could be more work around it. Right? So that's really the process of ishtalshalos, of taking a reality, take these tears, and take them back to the source. So you'll say there's something coming up, there's an emotion coming up, there's a sadness I'm feeling. But what's the cause of this sadness? And you'll see that the tears go back to Midas, the midas go back to seichel. And it goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And it usually comes back to chachma, which is a certain nekuda, a certain,
Which is not reachable, bro.
and sometimes it's certainly not easy to reachable. It's certainly not. Because the kalim I'm using to analyze are also limited themselves, right? Only the author of Ishtalshalus can see that entire process. But that gives us an example of how Ishtalshalus works, huh? Yeah. Shahamidis nishtalshalu mehaseichel v'hamachshava mehamidis. Then you have machshava. Person is having all these thoughts. They're born from midis. Chuli, etc. Maisa comes from dibur comes from machshava comes from midis comes from seichel. So this is all a process that begins in Olam Atzilus. But now the Alter Rebbe says, Avol b'matzil atzmei baruch hu ein areichel av yizbarach. But what if you're talking about the matzil himself? The matzil himself is the author of Atzilus, the one from whom Atzilus comes from. Matzil is the one who emanates the characteristics of Atzilus. Ein areichel av yizbarach. There's no erech to him. Now the word ein aroich is a frequent word in my modern, but like in this mimer, the Alter Rebbe, could be because of the person who was there, every term he was used, he gives an explanation. Like when he says Atzilus here, he gives an explanation. He says Ishtalshalus, he gives an explanation. He says Machshava Dibur, he gives an explanation. So here too, when you say ein aroich elav yizbarach, means there's no erech of all of this to him. When you're talking about the matzil himself, it says v'loshen erech. What do we mean by erech? We say ein erech. What does erech mean? Loshen erech hakasav b'Torah be'erken. The word erech we have in Torah in Parshas B'chukoyse in the mitzvah of erken. What's the mitzvah of erken? Shemarichin kesef erkoi b'misper shanav. There's a mitzvah over there in Parshas B'chukoyse. It's a very interesting mitzvah. And you have a whole mesechta called Meseches Erken. The word erech means value. Yeah, you say, what is the erech? Right, le'erech, be'erech. So we use be'erech approximately, or it's a mincha is going to be 3 o'clock be'erech, or the class is going to end be'erech. Ish. Because that's already a Shema mushal. The word erech comes from Parshas B'chukoyse. V'haya erkoi. So over there you have that basically if somebody says, the erech of this person, I want to donate to the Beis HaMikdash, or I want to donate to the Mishkan. So you have to examine, first of all, what age the person is, what gender the person is, and based on that, they have a certain erech. Now, it's not really the value of the person, because all people are in the same erech mamash, right? Anybody from one age to another age, no difference who they are. It could be Moshe Rabbeinu, it could be Prasta Balagol, it's all the same erech. But the vart is that it's a certain value, but however the Torah decides, however the Gzeres HaKasav is, that defines, based on this human being, with this age, with this gender, you have a child, you have an adult, you have a senior citizen, the Torah goes through all the different ages. You have males, you have females, and based on this, you have to give this erech to the Beis HaMikdash. Now the Rebbe says this is important to understand, that this is where the word erech comes from. So when we say ein aroich lecha, right, we say in davening in Shabbos morning, ein aroich lecha Hashem Elokeinu b'olam hazeh. They have a famous song, ein aroich lecha Hashem Elokeinu. So what does it mean ein aroich? So that's where the word erech comes from. So it says in Parshas B'chukoyse we see that you estimate kesef erkoi, the kesef that he has to give for his erech, but misparshon. If somebody says erki, I want to give my own erech to the Beis HaMikdash, you have to look his age or her age, could be a man or a woman, and what gender they are, and that's what you give. V'chein erech b'mispar nikra ke'erech shnayim el arba kach erech arba el shmoina shu chetzi v'keitzeh b'zeh. You have also an erech in numbers. For example, you'll say, like the erech of 2, the ratio of 2 versus 4, 2 in contrast to 4, is the same erech of 4 to 8. What does that mean? Between 2 and 4, you only have 2. Between 4 and 8, you have 4. So what does it mean that the same erech of 2 to 4 is the erech of 4 to 8? It means the multiplication. Just like 4 is double of 2, so 8 is double of 4. That's what he says. Shehu chetzia, it's half. So you want to say, that's the erech. In other words, you could say the same erech of 2 to 4 is the erech of 4 to 8. Doesn't mean it's the same number mamash, but it means there's a common denominator there. That what? You're multiplying it by 1 time. 2 multiplied by 2 is 4. 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 plus 4 is 8. Fractions, yeah. Yeah, it's a certain measurement. It's an estimation. The same is true. You say this person is a woman, and this is the age of the woman. Yeah, this is the erech. Another woman who is the same age, this is the erech. A man who's the same age, it's a different erech. A child the same age, it's a different erech. Huh? Oh, Oirech Din, a lawyer, yeah. Lokel Oirech Din. Also comes the word arrangement. That's Oirech. Oirech means like, yeah. Nasata la mareches levaina zak. Aruch means prepared. That's something else. Like Shulchan Aruch, a prepared table. It's Aruch. It's arranged. Everything is arranged. Like you have the plates, and you have the forks, and you have the napkins, and you have the cups. So Shulchan Aruch. Could be, yeah. He's saying it's the same idea of everything has its space.
Ultimately it means definition, right?
Right?
Ultimately it means definition,
Yeah.
so it's the same idea.
Yeah. Yeah. Sefer Erkim. It's a word that's encyclopedia. Sefer Erkim. Erech. Like an entry. Everything has its entry because you're organizing it. So you have the entries of Aleph and Beis and Gimel and Daled encyclopedias. They're called Sefer Erkim. Rabbi Khan wrote Sefer Erkim Chabad. Okay, weiter. Why is when we say erech, this is important. If you go into a higher say that you're not going to say ein erech. Yesh erech me'echad al chaver. There's always an erech from one to the other. Why? Because ultimately it was nishtalshel one from the other. The hishtalshelus may have reached from the highest place to the lowest place, but ultimately the lowest rung is somehow bound up with the highest rung. Of course, you can't compare the two. And the distance, the spectrum, I mean, it's so far, so remote, maybe beyond estimation. But ultimately, you're not going to use the word ein erech. There's some form of erech. Multiplying 2 by 2 is not the same like multiplying 10 billion with another 10 billion. It's not going to give you the same money in the bank. Here you'll have $4, and here you'll have $20 billion. But are you going to say it's the same erech? It's the same principle that's being used. Here it's multiplication, here it's multiplication. There is a similarity. Doesn't mean it's the same money. Doesn't mean it's the same entity. We know $20 billion is not, it's $4. Avada. But the same principle was used. He'll explain. Midis misechol, machshava midis. And therefore, even ba'oimeka inyan, gashmius, legabe ruchnius, physical reality, legabe pure spiritual reality still has an erech. Why? Ruchnius mislabeshes begashmius. Because the very fact that the ruchnius is enclosed in gashmius, koyach haseichel b'moyach. The mind is actually enclosed in the physical brain. It's not like there's a physical brain and there's a mind somewhere else. No. It's actually in the physical brain. The power of vision, which is a pure spiritual power. The soul sees. The soul understands. But when you're born, when it comes into a body, it's in the eye. The physical eye is actually containing a transcendent spiritual force. They have some connection, some form of connection. Eidem means like some vapor, what we would call today chemicals. As explained in the Chachmas HaNituach, the Chachmas HaNituach is the Chachma of Nituach is surgery, but he means the Chachma of biology, the Chachma of Nituach, anatomy. Nituach is anatomy. The anatomy was then called the Chachmas HaNituach. Shebitlas halole galgalta tlasmoich. If you go into the different parts of the skull, there's 3 different parts of the skull. Right brain, left brain, center is tlasmoich, and there's 3 different aspects of the mind. What we call today right brain, left brain, center brain, Chachma Bina Das, it's different aspects of the mind are expressed in different parts of the brain. Sometimes if Chas v'Shalom there's a physical chisaron in the brain, the mind is affected. You say, what's the connection? Because it's in that brain. We know today, I mean, how relevant this is, right? One little tiny blemish in one nikud in the brain, it can affect an entire realm of functionality, even though that realm of functionality essentially is a spiritual force. And it exists in the neshama. So for example, Chachmas Mayach HaZikaron. But if that part of the brain that's responsible for memory, if it's physically affected or defected, Yishak, another person can't remember, they forget everything.
It would be like an idiom.
Vapor, no?
I think it's like an idiom. And the Chachmas HaNituach probably
How are you translating Eidim?
Idiom, a group of words. The way words are related to each other.
Oh, idiom.
Like the English word idiom.
I thought it means like Eid Yalam in Haaretz. Eid, like vapor. No, Chachmas HaNituach is the Chachma of anatomy. Nituach is from the word Nisachim, pieces. Anatomy is analyzing all the pieces of the body. Or the anatomy of the body. So they explain this.
In Hebrew, nituach could also mean you evaluate something.
You analyze, dissect.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So you have to use different parts of the brain to analyze. One,
I don't think that's what he means.
no, it means
I think he means Eidim is there's some form of vapor. I think he means some chemical connections that connect the spiritual reality to the physical reality. So what do we see from here? That Ruchnis, Lagabe Gashmi is there's an Erech. That's why there could be a relationship. How does your mind live in the brain? And if you affect a part of the physical brain, you're affecting the personality. What's the connection? The personality comes from the soul. It exists before birth. It exists after death. So the brain finds something missing in the brain, but it doesn't work that way. The Ruchnis and the Gashmis are now married to each other. They're connected. And one affects the other. One literally affects the other. Right? Changing the chemicals and changing processes in the body affects the soul. It affects the spirituality of the soul, and conversely. Because there's such an achdus between them. There's a unity. They become integrated. Even though after a person dies, the neshama goes from the body. And now the body is not a keli anymore. There's still vision, but it's not through the eye. There's still a mind. The soul has a mind. Soul has chachma bina das and everything else and memory, but it's not through the physical brain. That's why it also has tremendous advantages. It could see from one end of the world to the other end of the world, because it's not limited by the keli of the eye. But when you're alive in your body, it's through the eye. The kayachari is through the eye. You see that seichel can also be enclosed even in a physical act. A person can take their hand and write on a book, on a text with ink, profound ideas. Here again, there's a relationship. It's an idea, but how is the idea being conveyed and manifested and coming out? It's coming through your fingers, through physical ink, through a physical text. And all of that is happening. That means the seichel has a relationship with the Maisa Hagashmi. Avol, so with Mela, even when you talk about Ruchnis and Gashmis, you still don't say Ein Arech, you say the word Erech. Erech means there's some commonality. There's some connection between the two. You could trace it back. Some connection, some trace, some tzad hashava, some commonality. How do you say erech in English? Maybe equivalence, some equivalence. Now you're going to say that the erech of a person is 50 shekel. Come on, that's the erech of a person. That's what your mother would be ready to pay for you. 50 shekel. Maybe, halavai sagst du. Okay. Okay, you're surrounded here by a lot of therapists. You're good. You're in good company. Yeah. So l'chayr, it's a joke, right? How could you say the erech of a person is 50 shekel? How much is 50 shekel? I don't know. $20, $15? On a good day, yeah? So that's what you're worth? So what's the answer? The answer is erech doesn't mean that this is your ultimate value. But erech means there's some way of capturing. Right? When a person says, I want to give the erech of a person to the Beis HaMikdash, you don't have $100 billion to give to the Beis HaMikdash. And really the life of a person is priceless. So what are you going to give to the Beis HaMikdash? Something priceless? What are you going to give? So the Torah gives some equivalent that basically it's the 50 shekel represent something symbolic. Like you say, I'm giving you a symbolic gift. Something symbolic of this person. I think that's what he's trying to bring out. So it doesn't mean the erech is that this is mamish, this is mamish the person. So when you say Gashmis and Ruchnis have an erech to each other, it doesn't mean that Gashmis captures the same reality like Ruchnis. But there is some form of equivalence. Something in the lowest level of Ishtalshalus, something is being expressed of the highest level of Ishtalshalus. Because ultimately he came from him.
In mathematics, there is called derivative.
Derivative, yeah. Derivative. Could you compare Chachma of Atzilus, yeah, to the grain of sand in Asiya, to the blade of grass? So why are you saying there's an erech? It's ein erech. It's ein erech. There's no equivalent. This is tachlis aruchnis, tachlis agashmis. He says no, it is an erech. Because ultimately he derives from this. It doesn't mean it's not a major. Doesn't mean it's not a major distance. But epis and erech, you could say. Just like we said, 2 multiplied by 2 is 4. Yeah, 10 billion multiplied by 10 billion is 20. It's the same erech. But really, it's the same erech. Yeah, there's some principle that connects them.
Stock options to stocks.
Yeah, stock options to stocks. There's something that connects them. This is all once you start Hishtalshalos. Once you begin Hishtalshalos, even the highest level of Hishtalshalos, Atzilus, Ulamata, you already say Erech, everything has an Erech. But when you're talking about the Matzil himself, as he began in Perek Beis, over here you say Ein Arech. Like we say Shabbos, Ein Arech Lecha. What's Pshat Ein Arech Lecha? Lo Shayach Kol B'chinas Elu. All of these B'chinas, all of these dimensions, you can't talk about She'ein B'chinas Hishtalshalos. Because he's not in a state of Hishtalshalos. V'lo B'chinas Hislapshus Klal. Beyond Atzilus, the one who's Matzil, the one who emanated Atzilus. You can't define that it's Bislapshus. Islapshus, like we said, Seichel comes into the hand. The mind is in the brain. The vision is in the eye. That's called Islapshus. It's defined by the eye. I could only see with my eye. What is my eye using? My eye is using a spiritual energy. What is my brain using? It's not a dead brain. That brain is not going to, it's using the mind, it's using a spiritual reality, but it's contained through that, it's malubush, you have a lavush. So therefore there's some form of erech.
So it's basically in any scale that you create, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not
Right.
on that scale.
So in any scale you create, even the tallest, steepest, most distant scale, which seems infinite, Hashem is not in that scale. That's what he's saying. He's not the b'chinas hishtalshalos, not the b'chinas hishtalshalos. Ela nikra, that's why it's called sovev kol almin. What's that sovev kol almin? What does it mean? Surrounds all the worlds. Shamaylo mata shavin etzloi. That the highest and the lowest are identical. She'enoi nitfis melubash begeded almin klal. He's not grasped and melubash, enclosed and therefore contained in any way in the realm of worlds at all. The whole realm of hishtalshalos is already not a definition connected. Ki ani Hashem lo shani siksiv. Like the pasuk says in Malachi, I Hashem haven't changed. V'atu kodim shenivra elam, atu alacha shenivra elam. You're the same before creation and post creation. What does it mean you're the same before creation, post creation? It says v'im ha'ya'ezet tfisa v'slapshus b'mehusi v'atzmusi yizbarach ba'elam es ha'yoshinui chas v'sham. If you would say that there was any tfisa, there was any grasping, and there was any enclothement of the essence in the worlds, so that's a drastic change. That's a huge change. Because pre-creation, he didn't have this tfisa. He wasn't grasped. He wasn't malubish. And after all the days of the world will cease to be the end of history, again he won't be tfisa b'slapshus. So what do you mean loishanis? It's a huge change. That in this time of creation, he's nitfis and he's malubish in this. Was heißt? He's invested, he's manifested in this. How can you say Lo Shanisi, pre-creation? And when creation ends, it's a completely different matzav than during creation. Ela the pshat is, Shegam ata eine bislapshus. Even now, when you're defining the Ein Sof, it's not defined and therefore contained bislapshus. Elo, shachiyus hanimshach b'teich almin lachayosim b'chinas shem bilvad b'midas malchus yizbarach. All the energy that comes into the worlds that we're talking about here, Ishtalshalos, to give them all life, is called a name. Like we say, Baruch Shem Kavod, which comes from his Midas HaMalchus. The Midah of his Malchus, that's the name of Hashem, that's the name that's responsible for this entire definition of experience, from the highest to the lowest. Kamoshel HaMelech, a metaphor of a king. That's why it's called Malchus. Sha'af al pisho meirachik, Shmai Nikra al Mekaymis Memshalte Shehem Tachas Shusay, Ushmai Nikra Aleim Shehem Shalai. You can have a melech. He may be living very, very distant from some subjects, maybe a huge empire, a huge country. Nonetheless, you could say, like we say in Adon Olam Hashem Malach B'Terem Kol Yitzud Niv'Leis Nasa V'Cheftzeh Koil Azai Melech Shmai Nikra. Shmai Nikra, that's where this expression is coming from. His Shmai Nikra, his name is Melech, meaning on all the places, all these places, you could say it's a far island. He never visited it, he never saw it. He doesn't even know what it looks like, maybe, right? But nonetheless, his name is on it. You say, who does this belong to? This belongs to this Melech. This belongs to the Melech Shloimeh. This belongs to this Melech, that Melech. It's Tachas Rishus, it's under his domain. His name is called on it Shehem Shaloi. Huh? Yeah. Melech Shmai Nikra. That's what it means. What's the relationship of the Melech? When he's there, they never even saw him. You know, in the olden days, who saw a Melech? Very, very few people saw a Melech. So what's the relationship? The name of the Melech is on this country. This was the time there was still monarchy, so it was a very real metaphor. It's the name of the Melech. It's his Malchus. What makes it his? He knows what I'm doing. Theoretically, sure, he could send his army, he could make trouble, he could make Zedis, but that's not what it means. It means it's a psa relationship. What's this trying to bring out? So you could see something is under the Melech, it belongs to the Melech, but what is it? It's called the Shem HaMelech. This is the name. This is the prat, Baruch Shem Kveid Malchus Elolam Vad. Interesting mashal. That the whole Ishtalshalus is defined as Shem. It's defined as Shem. That's what we relate to, the name. Beyond that, it's a very, very deep mashal. You have to understand the mashal here. What do we say? We are under this king. If somebody comes to the peasants in this little island and they say, whose empire is this? Ooh, we're under, I don't know, Louis. What makes you under him? When he comes to visit every Sunday, you have coffee with him on Sunday, you play bingo on Sunday. He gives a lecture on Tuesdays. Well, no, we never saw him. You ever going to see him? Probably not. Our fathers didn't see him. Our sages didn't see him. My elders did this. So what makes it his? It's his. What is it? He says, this is part of name. That's the power of a name. And essentially, what do we know about people? Yeah. You say, Yankel Shmuel. What do you know about Yankel Shmuel? Yankel Shmuel. That's what you know about Yankel Shmuel. Somebody, Trump Tower, yeah. Somebody once said, yeah, the only thing we knew about Bob was that his real name wasn't Bob. The only thing we knew about Bob, yeah. But it's a deep idea. This is the idea of shame. On one hand, of course you're under the Melech. It's his country. We're talking true monarchy. This is before democracy, so it's hard for us to understand this. But in those days, the Melech was everything. The Tsar, people heard the word Tsar, and there was already. Here we have executive branch. Before you go to Tzimtzum Pshuta, first. Sounds different, though. Yeah, the sugya, darf man verstehen this sugya before you want to make shidduchim between all the sugyas, darf man gut verstehen this sugya. Huh? You can't make shalom bayis between a couple if you don't first deal with everybody individually. You know what I mean? Huh? Yeah. The idea of shame, the idea of name, on one hand, it's really everything. On the other hand, we all understand that it's an inyan of chitzonius. It's not the atzmius of the person, right? People could know the name of somebody else. We all know the names of people. How much do you know of the person by knowing their name? How much? How much percent? The answer is 0. How much do you know of the person by knowing their name? So on one hand, the Melech is their Melech. It's our king. What do you have from the Melech? What do you have from his name? His name is Nikra. It says on the entrance to the island that this is part of the empire of this king. It's a powerful relationship. Because on one hand, there's nothing here that doesn't belong to him. There's nothing here that he's not in control of. There's nothing here that's not connected to him. If it's a real Melech, his power and his influence, his impact and his presence is everywhere. You mention his name and people stand up. Somebody comes, a shliach, and there's a certain relationship that's very, very deep. On the other hand, Did they ever touch the king? Did they ever feel the king? Did they ever experience the king? They don't even know what he looks like. So what do they have? They have his name.
That's what it's a gashmi.
Huh?
That's what it's a
Yeah.
gashmi. But if the whole king is a rachni to the
Ruchnius is also only a name. That's the whole vart. Even the highest level of Ruchnius is like the lowest level of Gashmis.
Where's the mechitza between the gashmas?
That's all in Ishtalshalos. That's all in Ishtalshalos.
Certain point to change over where it goes from nothing to
The first link, the first ring is the shape.
Yeah.
Is the first ring, and it's lost in our chain.
Yeah.
To go back.
So the first ring, even if you go to the highest ring, what are you capturing? You're capturing the name. That's where you capture shame. That shame is manifests itself in endless ways. Atzilus, Bri, Yitzir, Asiyah, but it's all an Inyan of shame. And that's why it's erech. It's an erech. The question is, what type of shame? Is it a shame of ruchni? Is it a shame of gashmi? Is it a shame of chachma? Is it a shame of binah? Is it seichel? Is it midah? Is it machshav? Is it dibur? Is it maisa? But it's all in the realm of what? It's all in the realm of gilui. It's the realm of ishtalshalus. It's the realm where the Ein Sof is being manifested in a way that it can have a name. What does the word name? What do we even have a name for? A name is that somebody else should be able to know you. If you were living yourself your whole life on an island, you don't need a name. Nobody has to name you. A baby doesn't need a name for itself. You don't have to speak to yourself with your name. Yosef Yitzchak, maybe you should go to the bathroom. No, I'm not going to the bathroom. Maybe you should eat breakfast. No, I'm not going to eat breakfast. But somebody outside of me, how are they supposed to have access to me? They're not inside my kishkas. So the name is a bridge. It's an access. So that's physically. What does it really mean on a spiritual level? The whole idea of name is the way someone else can experience you. And how much do they experience of you through your name? How much of the Melech do they experience through his name in that island? It's some Metzias. It's a very deep Metzias. It's a deep connection. But how much of his atzmius are they touching? They don't even know what he looks like. They're not touching anything of his fabric.
Isn't the name the Uktach of the Koloshik,
Das ist alles in Ishtalshalos. Ishtalshalos. It's atzmus von Ishtalshalos. The name captures the svidis, the personality, but that's all Ishtalshalos. If he takes his reign off as on what happened, maybe practically nothing, but the name is a new name. Okay, I understand, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It goes so against everything we've learned so many times. We always learned that it's simple to
First, learn what he's saying here. I'm telling you, no. Versteh was es Agda.
Before his name, that's not affected by everything else.
Yeah.
Everything else is to be affected.
Yeah.
It's prior to his name. Nothing
Yeah.
But he says we only relate to his name.
One second.
prior to that, nothing's changed.
1 second. V'zeu chad v'lo b'chushban. This is the pshat what it says in Zohar. Antu chad v'lo b'chushban. He's one, but not in cheshbon. What's pshat not in cheshbon? Kiloymar she'einei b'bchinas erech. It's not the chad that then has 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then trillions and billions and trillions and zillions, or quadrillions. That's not the chad we're talking about. We're not talking about that chad. That's also a big chad. That's a gewaltige chad, the one from which everything comes. Wow, that's not bad. They're tracing everything back to oneness. We're not talking about that. Antu chad v'lo b'chushbon. That's not the Hashem echad. The chad is not the chad of chushbon. It's not the chad that's the source of all mathematical cheshbonis. That source. Why? So he says, K'loy she'ein b'bchinas erech. It's not in a bchina of erech, and that's why that means lo b'chushbon. Ki einoi begeded ha'ishtalshalus klal. Because it's not in the realm of ishtalshalus. So mele, you can put it into that category of cheshbon. This is the chad that precedes ishtalshalus. Yeah.
That's a mathematical concept also. So you have a scale starts from 1, but we scale, you have a 0, which you cannot divide by.
Right. So the scale of mathematics starts 1. That's the cheshbon. From there starts cheshbon. And from that 1 comes who knows what. Brilliance, brilliance, brilliance. And then there's the 0 that precedes it all. That's a shtickle mashal.
But that's still the alert.
Yeah, I know. It's within mathematics.
You cannot divide by
Within mathematics,
divide by anything else.
but you can't play with the 0. You can't divide anything by the 0.
One doesn't.
Yeah, but we're talking about error.
But it
Because
was about value.
what is error? You can be basically
Error is value.
have a fraction. 1 divided by 2, 2 divided
Yeah.
by 4. But 1 divided by 0 you don't have.
Yeah.
It's not yes, that's what I said. In the mathematics there is a concept.
Yeah.
You cannot derive from it. So there is no derivative when the common denominator is 0.
So now comes a shaila. What does this mean in Avodas Hashem? This last piece that Alter Rebbe said in Perek Beis. What are you hearing here in Avodas Hashem? What's the ramifications of this? What are you hearing from here? Somebody's going to volunteer and say something. You don't have to be scared. You could say whatever comes up. Don't worry. Nothing is.
For my neshama. This year. Because it's so mathematical.
Because it's mathematics and.
Mathematics is the language of creation.
You hear disconnect. Everybody hears disconnect here? He's hearing disconnect. The reason he's hearing disconnect is because basically it's saying that the whole Ishtalshlus is one Chitzoni is the name. It's like a king who's, I don't know, millions of miles away, right? Or hundreds of thousands of miles away. And this little island, they never saw him, they don't know him, he's not barely interested in them. There's a sign that this belongs to Louis the 14th.
Somebody invaded that island. What would happen?
Okay, if somebody would invade the island, he would send his troops. So once in 100,000 years, when somebody's going to invade that island, once in 4,000 years, when somebody invades that island, it's a chuv gevekt Krias HaMeisim, and he's going to send in a couple of soldiers. He himself is also not going to come. So Rabbi Margaretin is hearing very deep disconnect. Because all of our experiences are Chishtalshalos, even Atzilis, Machshavet, Dibba, Maisa, Seichel, Midas. Huh? Leis Machshavet Tfisabeh. Why didn't you hear disconnect in that? Why didn't you hear disconnect in Leis Machshavet Tfisabeh?
It's the best connection.
Why? Why is it the best connection?
Because
Huh?
Because as long as I can define it, then it's within a certain Medina network.
So let's see. So the Alter Rebbe now takes this nekuda and he explains it in Avodas Hashem. Now, what does this mean in Avodas Hashem? Because this word that he says in this mimer about Ani Hashem Lo Nisi, about Ein Aroich, about the whole Ishtalshalos is shame. It's like the name of the king that relates to that island. That's how much they have of the king. This the Alter Rebbe says in a lot of my mother. I mean, constant, very often. But as in Hebrew, say, Ma shlachot mizeh. What are the ramifications of this? What are the applications of this? Stam he told you a truth about Ishtalshalos, okay. So l'may nafka minah. So now he explains what it means in Avodah. And you see how it's the exact opposite of what you might think it is. In other words, when you really appreciate what he's saying, not intellectually, when you really can, so to speak, experience at least a little bit, lefiyedach, I know all experience is ishtalshalos, but we'll soon see what that means, experience. So you see it's the exact opposite. Let's see what he says. Right here, he stops the explanation. Now he says, I want to make it personal. When a person takes this to his heart, this echad, which echad? The echad of lo b'chushbon, not the echad, not the one that is part of the cheshbon, but the echad that we're talking about of a lo b'chushbon, that's beyond erech, ein arech. When a person brings this to his heart, a liboy, in other words, stop thinking about this. When this comes to your heart, b'chinas echad ze b'krishma, because krishma is when we say echad, azai, yiyeh v'ahavta b'chol avavcha, b'chinas yichidish b'nefesh. Now the love can reach a space of b'chol avavcha, which means with your yichidish b'nefesh, with the core of your soul. The part of your soul that is one. Yechida of your soul.
Which is beyond the Mishtalshus.
Oh. So the question is, what do you mean? Well, you just told me that my heart and my nefesh and yechida, it's all ishtalshalus. You said everything is ishtalshalus. But you remember how the Alter Rebbe began, that there's isrotzen v'isrotzen. You have rotzen that starts with chachma. And you have rotzen that's higher than chachma. So the pshat is that one is you can appreciate the echad emotionally. So what do you say right after Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad V'ahavta Hashem Elokecha B'chol Levavcha? It's not two separate things. Only when you can experience the echad of la b'chushbon, then you could have V'ahavta Hashem Elokecha B'chol Levavcha. If not, you can't say V'ahavta Hashem Elokecha B'chol Levavcha. B'chidush chidush b'nefesh. Only when you say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad and you experience that emotionally, Yasim Eliba, in your heart, not in your mind. Not only in your mind. Then it could be v'ahavta b'chol levavcha. What's b'chol levavcha? With your whole heart means with the core of your heart, with every part, every layer till the deepest layer. Unconditional. Why? Yeah. Shou kol levavcha. He says yichida shebenefesh. That is. What does it mean? All your heart. What does it mean with your whole heart? What does it mean? Half your heart, whole your heart. So he says your whole heart means with yichida shebenefesh. That's b'chol levavcha. Why does that mean Yechidah Shemesh? Because B'chol Levavcha means a heart has layers. Everybody knows the heart has layers. He's going to explain. B'chol Levavcha means with every last layer till the quintessence, till the core. All the layers. The heart has layers. There's one layer, another layer, another layer, another layer. We all understand that. B'chol Levavcha is the whole, all the layers until the core. Yechidah Shebenefesh. And he explains. Shebenefesh, yeah, Shenefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, Yechidah. You see, Naran Chai. In the Nefesh, there's what's called nefesh, ruach, neshama, chayich. These are layers of the soul. They're all the soul, but they're layers of the soul. Like we spoke. There's layers and layers and layers. There's the experience of nefesh, there's ruach, there's neshama, there's chayich, there's yichid. V'hu al derech mashal. And here I'm going to give a mashal for this also. It's interesting. Every Inyan in this mimer, the Alter Rebbe gives a mashal. It's very unique. K'moy shirayim, you could see, shekoiches ha-nefesh mispashtus madregis rabis. The faculties of the soul are expressed in many different ways, in many different steps, in many different layers. And they get affected, the soul gets emotionally affected from this ispashtus, from this relationship. The koiches hanefesh, they have connections with a lot of different things, and these connections affect her. But you can never compare one emotional effect to another emotional effect. Sharei. If somebody is reading a war novel, or you're telling a person incredible stories of wars, of battles, it has a deep impact. You can't say that the nefesh doesn't get nispal. There's something very powerful about it. You know, people are very infatuated by war and conflict, the heroism, the idealism, the sacrifice, the risk. You know, people love war documentaries, war novels, war stories, war movies. Why? Yeah, it also feeds the dream that everybody wants to be a hero, right? Deep down, everybody wants to be a hero. So when you hear about somebody, you know, who is at the verge of, everybody wants to be at the edge. Because if you're not living on the edge, you're not really living. You're half dead. Right? You need to live at the edge to be alive. I mean, you don't go off the edge. But real life is straddling you're at the edge. You're taking risks. It's courage. It's doing things that are uncomfortable. Right? In exercise, what does it mean you're growing in exercise? You're doing things uncomfortable. You're not lifting the same weights for 50 years. You're not running the same mile. There's growth. Milchamis is a very visceral experience where people are literally living at the edge. You don't know the next move. He could live or he can die. So there's a nachas. The Alter Rebbe says, yesh lo nachas minasepurim mahem. There's a nachas. It gives some form of delight. Interesting. In the mimer, the Alter Rebbe should say this. These sipurim, all these maises about milchamis, they give a person nachas. There's a high. There's a thrill over there. There's a thrill in hearing about war.
If Rabbi would live in our generation, he would be a gamer. Because in the game, you experience that.
Yeah. Yeah. So he says, if somebody tells you all these stories, they were in a war. So a few years before Tolstoy gave out his War and Peace, which was documenting the Napoleon War against the Tsar, which the Alter Rebbe was very involved in, Kiyadua. He ran away from Napoleon, and that's how he passed away, 1812. But this is a few years before. This is 10 years. This is like it's Tafkuf Samach 1805, so it's a few years before. But when you tell a person a story of conflict, of war, it gives nachas. Avol loy mitachlisam. She'einu negea loy ma'maisa kach kach. However, if you're talking about an ancient war, it's not so negea, this one won, that one won. It's a story. Right? He's not in the war. It's a story. So the story is a very interesting story. But the tachlis, what happened, it's like if the end of the novel will be that this one won, he's not going to have a heart attack and go crazy. Ultimately, the value of it is the story of it. Was is geshen bepoil, this side, that side. It's like you play a game, Monopoly, right? So you won, your child won. Okay, why not come in? It's the fun. It's the experience, huh? Yeah, it's like sports. I mean, some people become very, they take it personal, they're sore losers, but really the joy is the fun, the experience, the story itself. So, yeah, but why did he win? Why? He won. It's the story. That's one level. But then there's another layer. Something that's pasha negeya to you. Right? Somebody's describing to you what's happening in your business. What's happening in your bank account, what's happening in your, whatever, in your family, what's happening. Here, it's mispa'elis yoysim midavavei. Here, there's much more hispa'elis from something if it happens this way, or heifucha, it happens the opposite. If the conclusion is that you're getting the $1 million, it's one way you're impacted. And if the conclusion is that you now owe $1 million and you're being sued for every estate that you have, it's a whole different, it's not just an entertaining maisa. So what happened? The first story affected you. You were engulfed. You were enthralled. Now you're also enthralled. It's a different layer. It's a different layer. There's nefesh, there's ruach, neshama, there's chai yechida. It's affecting you in a different space. Now you won't be able to eat. You're going to be worried. You're going to be concerned. The first case, the story is over. We move on. Next. We finish the story. You finish the novel. Time to go to work. Here it's already mispa'alis yoser. Huh? Davav means it's negeya to you. If it happened this way, it happened the opposite. The outcome is negeya. You understand? Davav in the Mulchama, it's not negeya. He won or he won. Whatever, I don't know. It's interesting, okay? Because I'm not in the war. It's a war that happened 500 years ago. Right? It's more the fascination of the story, of the characters, of the way they did it, of the strategy, of how it happened. It's like analyzing a chess game. Who won? Whoever won. I mean, it's not your father, it's not your brother. Right? Chess champions, they're busy with chess games. I mean, in sports, I can't give an example because people become fans of a certain team, and if the team loses, they're ready to kill themselves. Because it's mamash negeya, like in America, became like a religion, so it's like God. So it's like geya, like mamash. If your team loses, you have to drink, you have to go crazy, you have to curse, whatever. But b'chlal, l'may nafka mina. What? I'm saying sports in America is not a good example because it's like, it became like etzem hanefesh. But Inyan, that's what it really is. So he won the game. It was interesting how they played. This was a nice move. This was a great move. But if it's negeya more, here the heifuch is negeya, if it happened this way or that way. V'yesh b'davar ha-negeya la'adam madregas rabas. You can go like this many, many levels. At sheyesh davar shenegeya ad mitzui ha-nefesh mamish betachlis nekudas halev she'elav hu noisias nafshe mamish. And then sometimes there's something that touches you ad mitzui ha-nefesh. Mitzui ha-nefesh means that the soul is squeezed out. Mitzui. The soul is squeezed out in this. In the tachlis nekudas halev, because for this your entire soul looks up to this. V'zeu b'chinas yechide shebenefesh hasichlis v'achiyunis. And this is what we call yechide even in the rational soul. And in the biological soul, this is called yechida. Something that affects the nefesh habahamis and the nefesh hachiyunis in a way that this is everything. It touches mitzui nefesh. This is the deepest, deepest place. From this you can't say, okay, let's move on. There's no moving on after this. It hits the spot. Not a spot, the spot. This is the Alter Rebbe's marshal for nefesh, ruach, neshama, chai, yechida.
That's very different for everyone, right?
Of course, yeah, it does. It's very different.
Some people would be the children, right?
Yeah.
Somewhere would be the spouse.
Yeah.
Somebody would be a parent.
Yeah.
Somebody would be I don't know.
Yeah. And this is all the nefesh habahamis, nefesh hasichlis v'achiyunis. There's still something called yichida. What's yichida? Yichida is,
Somebody's money.
Usually not, unless it could become money if they don't know themselves. But if they do a little work, they see.
On the ego level, it's money, probably, yeah.
It's a coping mechanism. If it's money, it's usually if they do a little work, they're very wounded, so it's money because they have nothing else. You understand? But if you go a little deeper, you'll see it's not the money. It's their self-esteem was destroyed. They feel they have no value. Money is just a representation. Just to say the money itself is usually not the case. It's not yichida shebenefesh. It just doesn't have that power. Because yichida has to be something that's with you the first moment you're born. Yichida means that it's something that's touching you in your core. If it's your core, it was there from the day you were born till the day you die. When I was a week old, I didn't know about money. When I was a year old, I didn't know about money. When I was 4 years old, I didn't know about money. So money doesn't have a power to go to yichida. Okay, so that's taka different. So it's interesting, in the Mittler Rebbe's transcript of this mimer, he gives some mashalim. He says the first mashal is like the war. The second mashal is your business. Here it's negeya what the conclusion is. I lost the house. I didn't lose the house. It's a big deal. You're not going to say, okay, let's have breakfast. No. He said you could sit and wallow in it, and it really, really affects you. But he says, but ultimately you could make a decision. We're moving on. You could make that decision. And then he says there's something that happens with your children. That's what he gives. It goes weiter. He said a child is having a situation. We're moving on. No. This is already a deeper layer of the soul is invested here. It's part of you. Yeah. Es ist nicht das eine Gehe da. Wie du willst. Es ist nicht eine Gehe. And then the last mashal he gives is, if the person is being taken out to be executed. That's his last mashal. And that's what that's Mamash Alter Rebbe's mashal. Yeah. No, mitzad the nefesh hachiyunis. And he says, why is it called yichida? Yichida comes from the word chad, one, and unified, yachid. He says, because over there you can't go away from it. In other words, that's a nekuda that always remains, because it's ad mitzvah nefesh. So if it's something that's not yichida, there's this, but there's also other things. I have a house and I like my house, but there's also breakfast. My kid is getting married. I'm going on vacation. I'm not going to let my business situation, there's bankruptcy, there's a problem, the bank is after me, 100 Bali Chayvis are after me, but now I'm going away with the family for a week. I want to give my kids a good time. I am going bankrupt. When I come back, I'm going to have to deal with who knows what. Okay. Right? But now I'm going away with my children. I want to give them a good time. I want them to have a father. A person can do that. But then there's a deeper layer. You can't just do that. We're going on vacation for a week. With bankruptcy, you could do that because the bank has to deal with it, not you.
Not death.
But a person is on a death sentence, right? It's October 7th in the morning and you're hiding under a bed and Hamas is coming in. Now we're going to be doing other things. Doesn't work that way. It's mamish. That's the mashal he gives. It's mitzuya nefesh mamish. This is the Inyan of yichida. Here you can't go away from it. It's yachid. This remains exclusive. You can't say, but there's other parts to life. There's no other parts to life. This is the part. This is life. Are there other parts to life or not? That's the question. Yichida means there's nothing else. Yachid. That's what he says. Yachid. It's one. You can't say, but there's other things to look forward to. There's nothing to look forward to. You're about to be executed. Again, we're talking in the perspective of the nefesh hachiyunis, where everything is about life. If you're going to lose that, what else is there? We're going to have breakfast, we're going to go on vacation, we're going to make money. It's interesting that in the Mashal, Alter Rebbe first gave children, and then he said the person himself if he's being executed. Because with children, it's also very deep. But the person could say, there is my child and there's me. The person is being taken to be executed, there's nothing left. What are you now going to think about? Yeah, he doesn't give exactly what's nefesh, ruach, neshama, chayei, but it's a mashal that the nefesh is in relationships with things, but which layer is it affecting? It's affecting a different layer, and all the other layers, there's still other layers. I could say there's something more important to me. I'm having a very stressful day at work, but now I have a Shir Gemara. For the next hour, there's nothing in the world besides the Shir Gemara. People do it all the time. It's a gewaltig Inyan. You shut off your phone. I don't know, people should do it all the time. You shut off your phone. Doesn't mean your phone is not important. There's text and there's this. But for the next hour, 2 hours, there's nothing. Ein loy ba'olamai. I once heard from the Lubavitcher Rabbi, he said it was like mimer. So the Gemara says about Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai that Torah nasai. That his umnus was his Torah. So Rabbi said, what's the Torah? And they didn't even stop for davening. Because mamash Torah nasai. So he said, what's the lesson to us? Most people is not Torah nasai. He said, the lesson is that when you're learning, it should be in the oifen of Rashbi Torah Nasai. The half an hour you're learning, the hour you're learning, it should be in the pchin of Torah Nasai. Like there's nothing else in the world outside of it. That's at least then, so it's a certain state. See, there's other things. In an hour, I have to go back. I'm a responsible person. I'm not running away from the planet. But then there's an Inyan, when you touch Yechidah, there's no going away from this. Sorry. This you can't go away from. The person is being taken, the Alter Rebbe says he's being taken lahariga, chas v'shalom. The Alter Rebbe was sentenced to death, of course. That's why it's a marshal that he gives. When the Alter Rebbe was taken to prison, he was sentenced to death. They took him in a wagon, a black wagon, which was reserved for capital crimes with capital punishment, and he was put in Petersburg in a prison. In the island, there's only a river, like Alcatraz, there's only a river around it. You can't get out of it through a river, and it was reserved for the top political criminals that were accused of treason. In fact, they took him in a boat, and he thought that they're going to drown him. He started to cry. He thought they thought that they're going to drown him. So so when Alter Rebbe gives this mashal, it was a personal mashal. Because mitzad the nefesh hachiyunis, the game is over. If you're being killed, what else is there? The whole tafkid of the nefesh habahamis is to keep you alive. That's its only tafkid. And it does it very well. Like we always talk about, all of our crazy coping mechanisms is all just to stay alive, to be comfortable, to survive. Whatever it is, freeze, fight, flight, fawn, whatever, all the coping mechanisms. The moment that's taken away, what do you want the nefesh habahamis to think about? Let's go meditate. Let me go eat pizza. Let me go take a piece of cheesecake, sushi. How's that going to help? The last wish on the death row, right? Yena litzanis, right? Huh? You want a cigar, you want a piece of steak, some ketchup on the side, okay? And a few minutes later, it's over. Okay, so now, listen to this. Alter Rebbe says that that's b'chol avavcha. B'chol avavcha means yichida shebenefesh. When you talk about the nefesh elokiz, what is that yichida shebenefesh? That can only come once you appreciate what he said in Perek Beis about that which is beyond the shtalshalos. Beyond the shtalshalos. There's no vahafta b'chol avavcha without the yichida. Let's see. A few lines I want to learn here. If we talk about the divine soul, the source of all neshamas Yisrael is something called Knesses Yisrael. Knesses Yisrael is the consciousness where all the neshamas are one. The mekar neshamas Yisrael. If you could take all the neshamas and bring them back to their source from where they come from, that's called Knesses Yisrael in Chassidus. When you say somebody talks about Knesses Yisrael, what does it mean? It means you have your finger on the pulse of the collective consciousness of Am Yisrael. And it's very deep, because very few people in a generation have this. There's people who can analyze Jews. Also not everybody. But to talk about Knesses Yisrael, you're not analyzing Jews in their individual manifestation, where everybody has their own life and problems and issues and blessings and struggles. Knesses Yisrael means you're tuning in to the frequency called Klal Yisrael. It's a different frequency. What's the collective consciousness of the Jewish people? By the way, you know who picks it up? The anti-Semites. The anti-Semites, they pick up those frequencies and they go crazy. It's not with Bechira. They go clip it, feels it, they go crazy. That's why from them you could figure out what the avodah of the Jewish people is. Because they feel it because they're threatened by it. So because it's not one Jew or another. They don't. Anti-Semites never speak about individual Jews. Every anti-Semite will tell you, "Oh, Mr. Schwartz, he's my best friend." The Jewish people, the worst of the worst. Individual Jews, they're fine with. Their accountants are Jews, right? Their barbers are Jews. Their cardiologists are certainly Jews. Their neurologists are Jews, and their lawyers are Jews. So why do you hate Jews? Knesset Israel. You can't explain it. This Jew is a nice guy. This Jew is a nice guy. This Jew saved him from bankruptcy. This Jew saved his life. This Jew got him out of prison. But Knesset Israel, ooh, that's a danger to humanity.
You're not talking about the Knesset.
Not Knesset, no.
Even Hitler's doctor.
Huh?
Hitler had a doctor.
Yeah. It's a metaphysical reality. So Knesset Israel. So what does he say? Whenever it says in Tanakh, Hashem says, Libi, my heart, Libi of Sari, Tsur Levavi, this is Knesset Israel. Nekudas Halev, Pchines Yechida, Shemekabelas Pchines Echad. This is the Nekudas Halev of the Nefesh Elokis, which is called Yechida. Why is it called Yechida? Because its antennas receive the Echad. Which Echad? The Echad of La B'chushban. The Echad of beyond the Shtalshalos. The Yechida Shebenefesh is the part that it channels the frequency, so to speak. I know the word frequency is not a good word, but it channels the frequency of Antu Chad V'la B'chushban. That's why it's called Yechida. It's the Chad, the oneness, pre-Shtalshalos. Shehu B'chines Haratzon Shelamayla Min Hatam V'das. Where is it expressed? It's expressed practically in a desire that's not al pi seichel. It's not al pi chachma. It doesn't use chachma to justify itself or to be, because chachma is already posted. It was born pre-chachma, because chachma is a shtalshalos. It doesn't bypass it. It doesn't need it. It's like the expression we always say. It doesn't need it. It doesn't want it. What do we say? Mekenes nicht verstehen, me will es nicht verstehen, me darf es nicht verstehen. Precedes it, not bypasses it. Yeah.
Moshe used a good analogy that the neshama, the yechida, is entangled with yochid.
Yeah.
So it's entangled.
Yeah. Entangled with a v'hainu. So now here, he redoes what he did in Perek Beis in the beginning, but this is all in avoida. V'hainu lefi sheyizbainen. When the person has a hizbainenus, meditates. Echshahu yizbarech echad chad v'la b'chushben. Hashem is echad. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem echad. What does echad mean? Not that he's one and there's 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 that come from one. But it's chad v'la b'chushben. V'ayishtal shelo siyidi de gedoyle v'atzuma me'er panav yizbarech b'b'chines shem b'lvad. So the whole ishtal shelos is such a powerful descent from the true light of Hashem, because it only captures the name, Baruch Shem. It's the name, like the name of the king. Like we say in davening, in Tehillim, Yahalalu, es Shem Hashem, ki nizgav shmoy levader, rak hoydei alaretz v'shamayim. The Hallelujah, we go through the whole creation, right? You remember, Hallelujah, min hashamayim, bamroim, malach of tzvav, shemesh, yoreach, stars. And then you go to Taninim, Tahoimus, Eish, Shuvaret. Basically, you're going through all the Ishtalshalos. How do you finish it? Yahalalu es Shem Hashem. All they're talking about is the name. That's all they can talk about. What do you want? The highest angels, the highest realities, the lowest reality, they're all praising. What are they praising? They're praising the name. What's that the name? They're praising Gilui. They're praising the Ein Sof that was condensed and manifested in a way that they can have a consciousness. Because that's the only way they can praise. They can't praise not with their consciousness. They praise with themselves, through themselves. So what can they praise? They can praise the divine that they can experience with their antennas based on the tzimtzum of Ishtalshalos. Yahalalu Shem Hashem. And furthermore, Nizgav Shmoy Levada, even the Shem is exalted. It's only the Hoydoi, the gray of the Shem is Alaretz V'Shamayim. V'kam amineri b'revavos madregesim sumim rabim batsumim lein ketz achnes hava vayis ha'olam haza hagashmi here gashmi. And there were myriads and myriads and myriads of madregas with restrictions and filters, strong and intense, infinite tzimtzumim, infinite restrictions, until the realities of our physical world emerged. Yehi or, that God should say, let there be light, and there's physical light. Val koitev zeh Hoilich v'soivev kol dover beitz chayim ereshisev atzayfei. It's a unique expression. The whole Eitz Chaim of the Arizal, which is considered the most fundamental work of Cabala of Arizal, Eitz Chaim, written by Rabbi Chaim Vital, is all al-koitiv that's all going on this axis. The whole Eitz Chaim, every word in Eitz Chaim, from beginning of Eitz Chaim to the end of Eitz Chaim, is all al-koitiv that's all on this koitiv. What's pshat? Shetchilas dvar, if you open the Eitz Chaim in the beginning, the first opening of Eitz Chaim, the first shar, the first chapter, Bi'er Tzimtzum Ein Sof. The Eitz Chaim begins with the story of Tzimtzum. That pre-creation, the Ein Sof filled, the Ein Sof filled all the worlds, and there was no space for anything. And in order to create the worlds, Hashem was mitzamtzim, the Ein Sof, the Ein Sof, and he created a chalal, an empty space, and he put in a kav, and that's how he starts the whole Eitz Chaim. He says, now go v'soif dvarav b'dafa acheren. Go to the last page of Eitz Chaim. It's Brias Shamayim V'aretz. He finally created heaven and earth. So the Eitz Chaim basically takes you through Hishtalshalos, but not above Hishtalshalos. So here, Mamish, in this mimer, the Alter Rebbe is saying, the whole Eitz Chaim, it takes you from the Tzimtzum, that's where he starts. And he gets till the creation of heaven and earth. But ultimately, you're in Hishtalshalos. Because he begins with the first, with the Tzimtzum. What's the Tzimtzum? The Tzimtzum is to create the first rung, so to speak. Or in the language of this mimer, Atzilus. So the whole Cabala is the incredible system of Ishtalshalos. Higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. And in Cabala, if you're looking at a little grain of sand, or you're looking at a drop of water or a flake of snow, remember, it's not a flake of snow, it's not a grain of sand. You have the snow in Bri and Yitzir, and you have the snow in Bri, and you have the snow in Atzilus. And that's really the whole perspective of looking at the world from a pnimiyistic space. All Hishtalshalos.
So entrenched in his manner that he's using the same terminology, how that it's kind of hoylech, the soivet, the shisa, the
Yeah. Yeah, he's using the expressions of Eitz Chaim. Hoylech v'soivev midei shisa v'atzayfer. Yeah. Umitchilas hatzimtzum atchenasa shamayim v'aretz hu kol ha'ishtalshlus shebeitz Chaim. From the beginning of the tzimtzum, which is essentially stepping away from Ein Sof in its purity, restricting, concealing, right, moving away, suspending, in order for there to be a world with definition. From that, the beginning of Tzimtzum, until there's a heaven and earth, which means we're here today, that's Eitz Chaim. That's the whole Ishtalshlus of Eitz Chaim. And it's quite complex. Anybody who ever looked at Eitz Chaim understands you could sit a lifetime on Eitz Chaim. You could sit many lifetimes on Eitz Chaim. You're talking about the entire journey and the spectrum of reality, the spiritual science of reality from the highest level to the lowest level, but it's all Hishtalshalos. Huh? Alter Rebbe puts it as in 2 lines, the whole Eitz Chaim in 2 lines. Huh? So now, what's the Alter Rebbe trying to say? The Alter Rebbe is trying to say in Shema Yisrael, we should talk about pre-tzimtzum. That's the whole Inyan, to talk pre-tzimtzum. That's b'chol avavcha. That's the only way b'chol avavcha. As long as I am operating within the system of Ishtalshalos, it's important to understand the system of Ishtalshalos, because the system of Ishtalshalos gives validity to the entire spectrum of human experience. If you delete Ishtalshalos, right, delete your emotions, delete your thoughts, your words, your actions, your idea, everything, fine, so we're just, I don't know, fine. Ain't safe. So Hishtalshalos is the whole world of what we call Mamala Kalalman, which means there's a world, there's serious stuff going on. And every detail counts, and nothing is a mistake. And everything evolves from something else, and everything has a cause and an effect, and everything can be traced back. And that's the whole world. But the Alter Rebbe comes and says, but don't get stuck in Hishtalshalos. Don't get stuck there. Now, stuck in Hishtalshalos doesn't mean you're stuck in some elevator or in some mess. Stuck in Hishtalshalos means you're stuck in beautiful places. Atzilus is not a bad place to be stuck if you got to spend a few days stuck somewhere. It's nicht gefährlich.
Stuck in the same places that
Right. But nonetheless, what was the aside of this mimer? That the highest level of Ishtalshalos and the lowest level of Ishtalshalos have an erech. And b'meila, they're equal legabe the Ein Sof pre-Ishtalshalos. Like you'll say, nobody's going to say that $1 and $100 billion are the same. It's stupid. right? $1, ich bin a homeless beggar. $100 billion, you're already in the big leagues. Yeah, you have challah for Shabbos. And you could buy another house in Muncie and in Tom's River. Huh? You can get sourdough challah. Even a few. But everybody understands that legabe infinite money, I mean, I know there's no such a thing. Legabe infinity, 1 and 1,000,000 and 1,000,000,000 and 100 billion are all identical. The disparity between 1 and 100 billion doesn't come close to the disparity between 100 billion and Ein Sof. Why? The disparity between 1 and 1,000,000,000 is a disparity within numbers. It's erech. I know it's a big difference. We're not comparing the two, but it's not such a big difference. Because 1,000,000,000 are made up of ones, and 100 billion, I know it takes time to get from $1 to $100 billion. I'm not there yet, maybe by tomorrow.
There's a joke about
Or maybe by Shkia. Yeah.
There is a quick joke about it. When Abramovich comes to the Koisel and he utters his prayer, the Blasco comes and says, I don't have so much.
Yeah. But legabe Ein Sof, 1 and 1,000,000,000 and 100 billion are the same. They're equally. How far is 1 from infinity? Infinite. How far is 100 billion from infinity? Also infinite. So it's not getting you closer. It's not like if you have another billion, you're getting closer. If you go to Olam Habriya, you're not getting closer. You're getting higher, much higher, and it's gewaldig. It's not to mach up chas v'shalom ishtalshlus. That's why the first Pedic was the whole ishtalshlus. You're getting higher, but you're not getting closer. You're not getting closer. Oh. But what's about getting stuck there? Getting stuck there means that that's the entire spectrum of reality. So the Alter Rebbe says, the real Nikud of Avodah is Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. What's about Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad is the Inyan of Antu Chad V'lo B'chushbon. Mitzad Antu Chad V'lo B'chushbon, you could understand that the whole Ishtal Shalus is a reduction of ultimate reality, and even the highest level of Ishtal Shalus is an infinite reduction. That's why we're calling it an Erech. However, when your toif is the singing of Antu Chad V'lo B'chushbon, yeah, where is it? And the answer is, where is it not? In other words, it's what we learned in the previous mimer of Al Ken Yemru HaMoshlam. Yeah. Mitzad Atzmos Ein Sof, which is L'mayla Me'ishtal Shalos. It's not defined by anything. So if it's not defined by anything, it's also not placed in any particular spot. You don't say, here's Ishtalshalus and here's above Ishtalshalus. So you're climbing and climbing and climbing and climbing, and you're getting to the top of Ishtalshalus, and then you're just like, sorry. That's not Ani Hashem Lo Shanisi. That's Ani Hashem Shanisi. That's the biggest Shanisi. The biggest Shanisi is, pre-creation, there was only me. After creation, nobody has access to me because I'm not connected to creation. That's the biggest Shanisi in the world. What is Ani Hashem Lo Shanisi? The Rebbe said you can't say Shanisi because of pre-creation and post-creation. He has no tfisa in the world. In the middle of creation, he has a tfisa in the world. So it's Shanisi. And the Chaida, what we're saying here, so there's no relationship, there's no connection. It's the biggest Shanisi in the world. It means in this whole realm of Ishtalshalus, God is gone. All you got is his name. No, that's how you were learning the mimer, yeah? That all you have is his name. So that's the biggest Shanisi in the world. That's what you should have asked. He's giving a whole Rayani Hashem Lo Shanisi. There's no tfisa, there's no islapshus. Because if yet there was a Shanisi, the biggest Shanisi, he's saying here, all you got is my name. That's a big Shanisi. There's a whole island called Ishtalshalus where all you have is my name. Me, sorry, I'm gone. I don't even visit. I don't know you, you don't know me. Maybe I know you because I'm God, but that's it. The biggest Shanisi in the world. No, so what's the answer to this? He's contradicting himself in every line here. When you say there's no tfisa and islapshus, it means it's not reduced to the particular category which detaches it from the essence. When you say there's no tfisa and islapshus, there's an expression in Zoya, it's brought in Tanya. Ihu tafis bekula v'leisman de tafis bay. Ihu tafis bekula v'leisman de tafis bay. It's not a tfisa means no experience can reduce him be'emes. Like, I cannot see outside of my eyes. The eye reduces my soul. Sorry. It would be nice to say I have vision to the other end of the world. I don't. Pre-birth, yeah. After death, yeah. When you're in the body, you have to see through the eye. Sorry. The soul is bigger than the eye. It is bigger than the eye, but when you're living here, v'chai b'hem, it's only through the eye. That's pshat. The soul is nitfis and melubish in the eye. The eye reduces the vision of the soul. Yeah. You have the tzaddikim that could see misayfa olam atzayfa. It's a rare experience. But generally, all of us, the soul could see to the other side of the world, but that's only when it's not in the guf. When it's in the guf, it works through the eye. My mind can only understand things as my best as my brain is capable of. What, the mind is much bigger than the brain. You think the soul in Gan Eden doesn't understand much more? In Gan Eden, yeah, but now it's working through a brain, and the brain has physical properties. And if chas v'shalom, there's brain damage, and today with the CAT scans and MRIs, you could see different regions of the brain. Yes, you cannot understand or see or feel or sense or remember or experience certain things of life. It reduces the soul's mind to the brain. That's called his slapshus. That's called tfisa. The question is, does his shtalshalus do that to atzmos? What's the answer? So is atzmos more in shtalshalus in this mimer or less in shtalshalus? Verstehst? Huh? When you say there's no tfisa and slapshus, so it means it's not less present. It's present in its entire reality. I can't say the soul's vision is present in the eye in its entire reality. It's not. There is a spiritual level maybe, but my eyes can only see what my eyes can see. And if my eyes are damaged, I need glasses. But the soul has vision. You know what it says in Chassidus? Why is a blind person called saginar? Saginar means full of light. So most people say it's just being nice. You know, you don't want to say he's blind, you say saginar. The Alter Rebbe says, no, it's pshat mamish. The koyach hari'i of the neshama is so intense that the eye is not a keli for it. So he's taka saginar. He sees too much. That's why you see that blind people sometimes have a very deep chushim, very deep vision. The Alter Rebbe is taich. Saginar means it's higher than the kelim. But it's taka higher than the kelim. The kelim do not channel it. When you speak about the Inyan of Hashem not being nitfis and melubish, means there's nothing that can reduce or quantify or qualify or condense that reality of Ein Sof. But of course, Ani Hashem lo shanisi. Verstehst? Of course. When you say chad, it doesn't mean over there he's one, and then there's this whole ishtalshalus where there's a playground. He says, you know what, I don't know you, you don't know me, I barely care about you. In ishtalshalus, I'll take you serious, but that's it. The moment you come to me, it's a joke. The mashal of the melech with the name is one Inyan. That when ishtalshalus grasps God, it's as much as the island is grasping the king. What do they know about the king? His name. They know that his name is Louis. That's the end of the relationship. That's what they know. Why is that so important? It's so important to know not to get stuck in ishtalshalus. On the other hand, one shouldn't get the impression to just delegitimize the whole ishtalshalus and say, yes, ishtalshalus. Because if you're bypassing ishtalshalus, you're bypassing the whole system of creation. He created it. Ishtalshalus is not a mistake. Atzilus is not some weird creature that, unauthorized foreign creature, a UFO, who landed. Yeah. Yeah. So b'meila, you have to appreciate ishtalshalus. Huh? Yeah. So let's see now, mamish, I just want to finish the last lines here. Val dover ze tiknu chazal seide psuke de zimno birches yoitzer. That's why Chazal were masakin the whole preparation to Krishma. It didn't, in Torah you just have to say Krishma. Chazal said, do psuke de zimno, do the brachas, yoitzer avasoylam, laharich be'echad. Shekol hamayich be'echad, marichin lo yamav v'shnais. What the Gemara says, Whoever lengthens the echad, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem echad, we make Hashem gives him long days. So what does that mean? What does it mean? It means you say echad, the longer you stretch the echad, the longer life it means. And what's the Havana? Why? Because it means a whole other Inyan. It's a hafla de kavart. He midas ha'ava shenikra yom. In Cabala and Chassidus, love is called day. It says, Vayikra Elokim la'or yom. Hashem called light day. Vayara Elokim es ha'or ki tov. He saw that the light was good. Generally, yom, which is associated with Gilui, is an expression of love. It says, Kamei shekasov, Yoimam yitzava Hashem chazdai. By day, God commands his chesed. Day represents revelation. When a person loves, like you're expressing yourself, you're revealing yourself. So Yom is associated with Ava. Shayidei shemaydich lizboinen be'echod tigdal v'tisrabe midas ha'ave love yizbarech. Kol ha'mayrich be'echod. What's that kol ha'mayrich be'echod? Kol ha'mayrich be'echod means if you really mayrich be'echod. In other words, you truly allow the echad to become longer and longer and longer and fill you. Ma'richin lo yamav. The person's days, the person's capacity of love goes deeper and deeper and deeper until it's b'chol avavchi chidush b'nefesh. Ubepsuke de zimre mavur. Ech sheyahalalu es Shem Hashem. So what's psuke de zimre? Psuke de zimre is all about ishtalshlus. It's creation. Yahalalu es Shem Hashem. V'alalu b'gvuroisav. Halalu karev gudla. Shekarev gudla yuribu yischalkus midas agdula b'kamim minim adregas b'chol oilam v'oilam. Nimshach aydei gvuroisav hein einam tzimtzumim rabim v'atzumim. So we come back. What do we say? Hallelujah, hallelujah, el b'katcha, hallelujah, big v'roisav, hallelujah, roiv gudloi. What's roiv gudloi? Roiv gudloi, we explained earlier in chapter 1, is the whole ishtalshalus. How does that happen? Only through gvuroisav, only through tzimtzum. Gvura is tzimtzum. Gvura is holding back, strength, restraint. It's the tzimtzum that makes roiv gudloi. It's the restrictions, it's the filtering, the endless tzimtzumim that allow for there to be the hispashtus of ishtalshalus. So the whole Roiv Gudloi that we're talking about is all based on Big V'roisav. Hallelujah, Big V'roisav. And then Hallelujah, Roiv Gudloi. Vayidei ze yashuv la'avas Hashem oidein seiv baruch uli bata b'l'kolei love yis baruch. The moment the person experiences this, what do they come back to? They come back expansive love to the pure oidein seiv, to become subsumed in him. And the Alter Rebbe says, Ki tiktan ma'oid be'einav. Because in the person's eyes there will becomes the love to this world will become so small, and the love to all of the physical dimensions and koiches of this world will become so small. Why? Because all of them is all part of ishtalshalus. They descended through ishtalshalus from world to world to world in many numerous levels and steps from level to level with so many tzimtzumim rabim v'shainim. So the person says, I don't want to remain stuck in something that is a product of so much concealment and so many restrictions. I want reality itself. I want the core of reality itself. So that's the Shema. So the whole Psukkah de Zimra is like the Eitz Chaim. It's building up to the Bikal HaMayrich Be'echad. That the Echad should be Ba'arichas. What does it mean Ba'arichas? That it should be able, not just physically long, that you say it for a long time. Kal HaMayrich Be'echad means your Echad is prolonged until it fills. It fills every part of your life. Then Ma'arichin Lo Yamav. Then your love is a different type of love. It's the love of Yechidah Shebenefesh. Because until I don't reach this point, my love is a limited love. It's like Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya. A certain layer of me has this love. A certain layer of me experiences this. Why? Because it's rooted in ishtalshalus. The only love that is yeah. It can be deep, it can be powerful. Yeah. But cholavavcha means every layer of the heart, until the deepest, the core. How? And you can't move away from there. Says for this, the moment you skip ishtalshalus, the moment you go to that space of Ani Hashem Lo Shonisi, experientially, over there, it touches the person in the deepest core, ad mitzvah hanefesh. Because it's not anymore a level, it's not anymore of experience, it's everything. There's nothing else. Because Ani Hashem Lo Shonisi, what do you mean there's nothing else? What do you mean? I have coffee, I have me, I have a... No. There's something else in Ishtalshalus. There's levels. Once you go with that space, it's Antuchad. What's that Antuchad? It's one and everything, and there's no Nikud of Ishtalshalus that takes you away from it. Punkt verkehrt from what you were saying. You thinking distance. I'm above, I don't care. Verkehrt. No tfis and islapshus means there's nothing that can reduce it, there's nothing that takes you away from it. So the moment the soul experiences that, the moment, and we have that antenna, as he said, the Nekudas Halev is connected to that. That's the Ratzon higher than Chachma. It's a different type of Ratzon. It's not that Seichel is bad, Seichel is beautiful, but Seichel can't even contribute to it because all of rationality on its highest level at best is Chachma Vatzilus. Now that's no small thing, but it's already an Inyan of Ishtalshalus. Once you touch beyond Ishtalshalus, Dani Hashem Lo Yishanisi, so it's everything. So the person's entire experience, like we spoke in the last mimer, it's like when you're absorbed in the womb of God. What does that feel like? Right? Mamish that. If you would viscerally experience yourself as truly being absorbed 24/7 in the womb of God. That it's kol ha-mayrich be'echad. That's mayrich be'echad. That 24/7 I'm absorbed in the womb of Hashem. My mind and my heart and my wife and my children and my experiences and my disappointments and my letdowns and my frustrations and my struggles and my challenges and my setbacks and my failures and my successes and my relationships. It's all inside that. Because Ani Hashem Lo Yishanisi. You say, what do you mean? But you're going to the bank, but you're exercising, but you're dealing with a bill, but you have to take the car to the mechanic, but you need a plumber to fix your bathroom. No, Ani Hashem Lo Yishanisi. I'm not afraid of toilets. God, I'm not afraid. You think I'm afraid of your toilets? I'm afraid of your bank? What do you think? I'm afraid of your bank? Over there's no nekuda. It's all in the womb. But this can't be intellectual. If it's intellectual, then it's just another framework. So fine, there's the mind understanding nice ideas. It's nice. That's not what we're talking about. That's why he says it's an experience of it. What does it look like viscerally? That's the key. Yasim eliba. If it's an intellectual thing, it's another idea.
It's an experience, but without an intellectual idea, you can bypass it also.
It's the whole tragedy of Chassidus when it's intellectual. Another madrega. It's worthless. It's not worthless. It's Torah, it's Halakha, but it's not the real thing. The whole Yesoidus is a visceral experience that your heart can feel. So you'll say, one second, my heart is part of Ishtalshalus. But the emes is there's a Nekudas Halev that's rooted in Yechid, it's rooted in Echad, V'la B'chushba. Nasa Adam B'tzalmeinu Kidmuseinu doesn't only mean you reflect Ishtalshalus, it means you also reflect L'maylam Ishtalshalus. So once there's the Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, now is V'haftas Hashem Elokecha B'chol Levavcha. What's about your whole heart? What's about your whole heart? The deepest part, Mitzui HaNefesh Mamash. It touches everything. And you can't go away from it. How can you not go away from it? Because it's everything. That's why, if you have this, you have everything. You have everything. The whole Ishtalshalus is there too. Ishtalshalus is also in the womb of God. It's not like when Hashem made Ishtalshalus, that's Tzimtzum Shaloi Kipshuta. It's not like when Hashem made Ishtalshalus, he made a place of Ishtalshalus and I'm not going close over there. There's like a sandbox, I don't get close, I'm away. Then the whole mimer doesn't make sense. When people learn it like that, they don't understand a word Alter Rebbe is saying. It's like Ishtalshalus is like this weird, this crazy, this low sandbox. I'm away. If you want to get to me, you have to somehow get out of this, go there. How does this relate to a person?
Quantum leap.
The pshat is no. Ani Hashem Lo Yishanisi means that even with all Ishtalshalus, it doesn't reduce him. It's experience. Ishtalshalus experiences itself not like that. That's true. Ishtalshalus experiences itself that it is just what it is. Bria, Yitzira, Asiya, that's true. That is the experience of the Bria Sa'ila. But in the Amitis Ha'inyan, what's the Hergish of Yechidah? The Hashem Echad. Hashem Echad means it encompasses everything. So everything is in the womb. So when the person can experience that, what type of love is it? It's a love that touches him in the deepest, deepest core. Because there's nothing, you can't go away from it. You don't want to go away from it. Why would you want to go to anywhere that had to be created through tzimtzum when you could stay in the reality that is pre-tzimtzum, that is the only real reality? Why? That's his vart. Yeah, I have to ask myself, and this is really any relationship takes energy. Am I going to invest my energy for the next 20 minutes or the next hour or for the next day or for the next year or for the next minute in something that its entire chashivus and identity had to go through tzimtzum, which means concealment, in order to become? Is that where I want to put my energy? So when he says, Tiktan be'einav ma'oid, avas olam hazav v'kechaysav agashmiyas, it means I could put my energy in something that is real, essential, that didn't need tzimtzum. Or I could pluck out something that its entire reality is only because there were a billion, million, endless tzimtzumim, and that's why it thinks it's reality, and that's why I start worshiping it. I'm not going to do that. Not logically. You're channeling reality itself. You are Ein Sof Mamish, and you want me what? You want me to go out of that and to start worshiping or dedicating myself or becoming consumed by a nekuda that had to come through endless tzimtzumim in order for it to feel like a metzius. Completely. A healthy heart can't afford to do that. It's like... You understand what I'm saying? It's a different love. Yom is ahava. Yom mitzav Hashem chazda. When you have the Mairich be'echad, marichin lo yamav, then you have a real love. Now you're in love. Now it's b'chol avavcha. Now it's yichidish b'nefesh. Now you're not reading a novel. All these mashalim, it's about Judaism also. Judaism could be a novel about a war. Nice wars. Al ken yamar b'seifrim milchamas Hashem. Judaism can be a novel about wars. Judaism could be a story about business. It could be a story about... And then it could be an inyan of b'chol avavcha. Ad mitzia nefesh. That happens through the Mairich be'echad. Okay. We'll continue tomorrow. Good question. So why do we say Baruch Shem? Good question. Why are you ruining the whole Echad? Gewaldige Shaila. Why you say Baruch Shem? Your mom is ruining it. Not only that, the Mishnah says in Psachim that Anshe Yerichai hayu kerchen es Shema. The people of Yerichai deleted Baruch Shem. They took it out. They sandwiched Shema. They made Shema and Vahafta. Because they didn't want this. The Alter Rebbe explains they did not want Baruch Shem. They wanted Echad Vahafta.
Unlike the story of the Mishnah, right?
So they say that there was a boy, a little child, and the Alter Rebbe once he came to the Alter Rebbe. He was traveling through a city, and he asked him a question. And the question was, once you say Echad, how could you say Vahafta? Who's going to love? If it's Echad, there's no you to love. How could you say Vahafta, you should love? So the Alter Rebbe went into his Beirinus and he said, because in the middle we say Baruch Shem Kved Malchus Elam Vad. So once you say Baruch Shem is Vahafta. Anshe Yericha didn't want that. They wanted the Vahafta to flow directly from the Echad. But L'Poyel, that's not the halacha. The halacha is that we do say Baruch Shem Kved Malchus Elam Vad. Why? So Chassidus explains that this is very, very important. It's a very reiche word. Chassidus explains like this, that whenever you go to the higher level of Achdus, of Echad, and you don't recognize all the levels of identity, ultimately it's going to fail. When you land, you're going to land on a certain part of your body and you're going to break your bones. Meaning anybody who goes to places of Achdus without recognizing the legitimate power of all parts of their personality, and they somehow, I don't need it, I'm not there, there's no tzimtzum. Ultimately, when it comes back, they will not have the tools to integrate. And you see this with people. They have very deep moments of oneness that are very, very powerful. But L'Poyel, they lose it. Why?
They're not interested in integrating.
Because when they come back to the other reality, suddenly, oh wow, my emotions don't actually agree with this mimer. I have other cravings, have other interests. I'm actually very angry. I'm very overwhelmed. I couldn't care less about God. I don't, whatever. What happened? It was good. It was good. I learned Likkutei. It's good in the mimer. But in my life, so that's why Baruch Shem tells you that right after you say Echad, you should know that the same Echad also made a Hishtalshalos. And Hishtalshalos is very complex. And for this you have a personality, and there's a lot of tzimtzumim, and you're looking to survive, and you have a lot of different taivas, and you have a lot of different fears, and you have a lot of different anxieties, and they're all going to come up. Obviously there are those neshamas that stay here, but for most people not. And if you don't take that into consideration, it's not going to be real. That's why it's very important.
It will be real, but it will be an experience of another view.
It'll be real if either nadav aviyu or fakert, or you'll fall much lower. Al derech.
Maybe that's the tafkid.
Of course, the tafkid is to merge the two. Yeah. Tomorrow morning there'll be a shir Be'ezer Hashem. I want to finish the mimer bli neder because next week I'm traveling. So tomorrow morning there'll be the shir, the last shir. Friday morning, 8 o'clock, everybody is invited. A lot of hatzlacha, yes.
How does Hashem command someone to love? How do you command someone to
Yeah.
love? This answer is maybe
What?
the result of
Yes.
Echad.
Yeah.
It's not a commandment to love.
Right.
You will have
Yes.
love.
Yes. The Alter Rebbe says v'hafta in Lashon Kodesh means two things. You shall and you will.
You will love.
In Hebrew, if you say te'ahov, it can mean you should and you will. Because really a mitzvah is a prediction. The moment you will get rid of all the blockages and know reality, you will love. Yeah. It's a real commandment, a real mitzvah is a prediction. In other words, once you get to know your reality, you're going to go there. Fakert. Alter Rebbe says this a lot of times. Every mitzvah is a haftacha, because that's really what a mitzvah is. A mitzvah doesn't mean a commandment. A mitzvah is describing reality. If you're in tune with reality, this is what you do. Do people inhale? Yeah. Did somebody give me a mitzvah to inhale? No. But if your body is healthy, that's what you do. You inhale and you exhale. Why? It's called living. You understand? The moment you know more of reality, you feel it, so of course you do this. Yeah. It's not only you want to, it's essential, it's organic. It's like digestion, it's like going to the bathroom, it's like inhaling, it's like breathing. The blood circulation, who told my blood to circulate? What if my blood decides I'm not circulating? The blood doesn't do that, thank God. When the blood does that, it's kaput, right? I'm saying, why? And the answer is, that's what a healthy body is. A healthy body means that the biological system is deeply, deeply in tune with its functionality and it's working. So a mitzvah is just a spiritual system.
Mitzvahs are not a rule book. It's a result book. This is what will happen.
Yeah.
If you live like this.
Yeah. It's a description of reality. Mitzvah meloshin tzafsa v'chibur. This is not the end of the mimer yet. I'm not going to say it's the introduction to the mimer, it's the middle of the mimer, but it's not the end of the mimer.
I have to tell you something personally from experience that triggered this mimer. When my mother, Rochelle, passed away, she was on a deathbed. So she said to me something that I never understood till this mimer. She said to me that I'm not afraid to die. I said, what are you afraid of? She said, I'm afraid of separation.
Wow. Wow.
So she was just like she felt the unity here was between us,
Wow.
between me and her. So I just understood that, the separation. We all experience separation, even from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, until
Yeah.
we unite.
Yeah.
So if you're not in a state of Achdus, what is it? It's a state of separation.
Yeah.
So that's the Yechida.
Yeah.
So that's why you said that people are more afraid of for themselves than for children.
think it's the other way around, because afraid for children is afraid for separation.
Mm.
He's scared for separation.
Yeah, I hear you. Wow.
Because that's the most thing that we can relate to.
Ah.
Thank you.
Yeah.